Welcome to the Condor DM show. Tonight I'm covering Top Secret. it's in the vein of a James Bond type of game. Well, you know, I hope you're here or you get here to enjoy it. Starting a bit early, so we have some time to talk before I get into the game coverage. That will happen at 8 o'clock my time. So, we have an hour or so before I hit on the coverage to talk about some things, right? Give people some time to roll in. Yeah. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be covering Ghostbusters RPG. Old school tabletop role playing game based on Ghostbusters. But tonight, it's Top Secret. Oh, there's a lot of meat on this bone. I promise you. There's a lot. D100, D20. It's like most old school games. Simplistic in the dice rolling system. Welcome again to the Condor DM show. And Craig's here. How you doing, Craig? Boom. I knew. I said to myself, it's going to be you or Black Rose. It's going to be popping up first, but I figured it was going to be you tonight, especially with Top Secret. A lot of meat on the bone for this one. I promise you. Oh, start early and we get some alarms. Oh, you'll probably hear that sort of vaguely in the background. Shouldn't bother you too much. Hopefully that goes away really quick. Or not. Or it sticks around for a second. Or not. So yeah, I did a video pointing out some of the things I've been doing with my coverage, my content. I really truly believe in making my own stuff. I always have. I've been someone who skipped using modules or really in a major way skipped using marketed settings. I spent my life making my own setting, my own adventures, and I learned many different ways to do that with sandboxing and everything else. But I realized some secrets. How they made the modules was from Sandbox Gaming. How they made the setting. I mean, you could look at Traveler and everything else. Stuff you could piece together yourself. And how did they make all this stuff? From gaming in it, like Greyhawk. They develop it by starting simple, gaming in the world, and developing it. Not that they wrote out something and then just gave it to you like, oh, we made this great piece of whatever. And what I want to teach people is the designers that made modules and setting started at a very basic level, very basic thing. And that means you don't got to write out this whole amazing thing to make an adventure or to make your own setting. You could start very simple and build up and develop it just like the people that made the modules. They started with a sandbox and built it up as they went. They weren't, pre-made, plots. Plots come together as they're gaming. So the people that made the modules did it through sandboxing. The thing is, you can do that yourself with Dungeons and Dragons. That was the video I was covering. And it was for that game mainly. But I know a lot of people in the old school or even in the new school, they'll accuse 5e people. Like, you only play 5e. Well, a lot of old school guys only play Dungeons and Dragons. That's why when I talk about the sandbox that they should know about, if they played more than D&D, they don't. Right? They only know the sandbox, the redefined version from the modules. It's because they haven't really played other games. So they don't know there's an earlier version of a sandbox that in many ways, it's not like the designers of Dungeons and Dragons didn't know about. They just didn't teach you about it. It wasn't applied to the game as far as it was going to be in the marketed material that you were getting. Well, a little bit of it early on, but they get rid of it because there's money. There's a money grab system in the modules. Make the adventures for you, get paid doing it, right? But in reality, once you know the sandbox system, the real sandbox system, you realize you can simply develop some amazing adventures for you and your players that are going to be more suitable to you to begin with. And that just by starting simple, you can build something amazing through gaming it out, through creating the plot in game. Right? Then you don't need to go get the module. And I want to remind old school guys that that is a real thing. That's a real thing. That's how they made the modules that you're purchasing. So why? And it starts simple. That means anybody can do it. And if anybody can do it, I want to teach people that. Like the city campaign thing video I did the other day. There's books out there about how to do a city campaign. Well, I can explain to you how to do a city campaign from scratch in like 5 or 10 minutes. And your city campaign can be very detailed, and you don't got to go buy a book. Now, I'm not against people that have money that want to go spend it on modules or campaign, city campaign books. You go ahead. But there's a lot of people that barely have money. You know what I mean? It's hard earned. Some people don't have the money to get this stuff. And over the years, I've been asked by a lot of people, you do city campaigns, Stephen, how do you do them? Because they might not have the money to go buy this stuff. So I explained. And so I said to myself, well, why keep just answering the questions to these individual people? Why not start making content towards it? And I can't avoid it. If I'm going to teach you about all these different games like Traveler and that, and you watch my content, you're going to learn about the sandbox. Again, it does shock me when I did my video about how I like to run D&D from the starting point of a sandbox, which is what they use to make the modules. So I teach people that, and I had a lot of pushback from D&D people saying, that's not how you do a sandbox. I'm like, well, no, damn it is how you do a sandbox. It's how the guys that made the modules that you created did the sandbox. That's how Traveler did the sandbox. That's how Pendrick, that's how every game does it. Sandbox, and you build as you go. That's it. And the development of what you're doing is amazing. My Skullhorn world started simple. Man, over the years of gaming with it, I detail that thing out. But what you do is you start gaming in it, and then you work on it between your sessions, between your campaigns, and you mix it in with what you're doing. Skullhorn, some of the greatest NPCs, kingdoms, and all that were started by players with their characters, and added, I add in what I've made with NPCs and that. And over the years, I developed that into a great thing. I had many adventures that are amazing that were all developed starting from scratch, coming up with a plot given what the players were doing. And these adventures were amazingly detailed. We'd start a little bit, see where they're going, start getting ideas, work on that between sessions. Wow. Go 100 or so sessions in. Do you know how deep and detailed those adventures were? Because I could adjust to the twists and turns of what the players were doing and get ideas and be inspired. In my honest opinion, it's not that they were better than the modules, but they were better for me and the people I was playing with, because it let the players guide the game. It let me build stuff off what they wanted to do. So their experience with those adventures weren't just like, oh, I'm trying this other one over here. It's tailored to them, tailored to their characters, tailored to everything. I could have turned a bunch of adventures into modules because that's how the modules are created. See, I want to teach people how you do it, because at the base level, once you learn it, you realize, oh, that's it. That's how you start and develop it. Yeah, and it means anybody, even the more simple people in the hobby, can pull it off and do it. Doesn't take much. You start, you get inspired. You'll know that just about everybody has some level of creativity. But your creativity can get smothered when you're buying somebody else's adventure. And that's what people have heard me say. A module is another DM's adventure. That's why I don't bother running it. And you might wonder why I would say that. Why would I keep saying that for years? Well, I don't run modules because that's another DM's adventure. But that's what that is, another Dungeon Master's adventure. I want to make my own because you start off very simple. And that means anybody can do it. And then you get inspired to be creative and make more. And you'll want to. Like, it's just not that hard. You don't need to write out an entire plot or a whole thing to do an adventure. That's crazy. No, you don't got to do that. In reality, even when you're putting in little hooks for people, they're simple. You don't need to do a bunch of work on them. Here's a simple idea. Here's a simple idea. You put some things in the city or town, or you can go along with what the players want to do. And you might think that's hard, but it's not. You listen to the players, really listen to what they think, what they want to do, and you'll find that your mind really doesn't have a hard time making stuff up, even if you think you'll fail. And that's why a lot of people avoid that stuff. That's why a lot of people avoid a certain level of improvisation, because they assume they'll fail. There's people online right now that will play in third person because they hear that people doing special voices, somehow that means they're better. But hey, if they change the game over to third person, well, now they're just as good. But what I explain to them is, you don't need to be that insecure, because all you got to do is tone changing and you're just as good anyway. You're just insecure. TTRPG was an offshoot of Pulp Fiction, and there are still thousands of used books available. So for me, it makes sense to borrow material source, and it's very affordable too. Exactly. Books that you can read, novels, ideas will come to you. It won't be just that you can borrow, but you can be inspired. It's one thing to borrow, it's another thing just to come up with your own ideas from reading. And people forget how valuable reading is. Craig, my friend here, doesn't. And when he offers you some advice for something to read, if you got the time, go read it if it relates to the topic we're talking about. And this guy, he gets it. He gets it. I've done a fair bit of reading myself, but Craig's definitely done more. But reading helps you think. It's not just giving you ideas, but it can. And there's a lot of ideas in games outside of D&D where the guys that do the modules, do this and that, they have not carried these ideas over. I mean, there's so many ideas. Like, I'll hear guys that will talk about different D&D games and products, and they'll be like, well, I like this initiative system over here. I'm like, man, you have missed out. There's all kinds of great initiative systems you could have tapped to D&D outside of D&D games or D&D related games. Like better, like Savage Worlds. There's a great initiative system because it's so solid, fast, and you can use the idea of that with Dungeons and Dragons. Completely fits. And it can make the game exciting, and it's easy. With only one voice. Oh yeah, that's true, Craig. It's like, you'd be surprised how, like, it's the improvisation thing. I think a lot of people are scared about when I say sandbox. Well, there's limits. There's actually not limits on you. You're just afraid. You will come up with stuff. And it might not be perfect at first, but it doesn't need to be, because you're going to develop things between your sessions. Now, as long as you're willing to do a little bit of work, that's part of being a game master, isn't it? So why spend all this money if you don't have it? And I'm giving you the tools and knowledge to be able to make your own stuff. Now, guys out there making their own stuff, they get it right away. They get it. They come by. I put that video today, and they're like, exactly. I'm like, but more people need to know it. Because what happens when you stop supporting that type of money grab content? You force people to make new games. That's what happened in the old school. And you'd even force TSR. When TSR had a hard time selling modules, they had to come up with a new game. Star Frontiers, right? Like, they have to come up with a new product Top Secret. World of Darkness did a really great job. I like some of their expansions, but it was clever in their money effort was to not just put an expansion out like, here's a vampire game, but we're going to make a werewolf game. You can use it as an expansion, but it's a whole game. That was hard work. Plenty did a pretty good job too. All kinds of different games, a lot less money grab. TSR did a lot of cheap money grabbing, and a lot of people that make D&D products today copy the TSR style of money grabbing. So does WotC. So do people around the OSR. Even the OSR clones are so not unique, their own games and copies of the old stuff, that the more you put money to that, the less people want to make new games. And if we have people out here with the money for art and time and writing and ideas, why not put the pressure on them to make whole new games? Because I look at the OSR as more clones than new games. Star Frontiers is not a clone of D&D. Top Secret is not a clone of D&D, right? So if you want something other than a clone, you got to stop giving money to clones. And people might not want to hear that, but it's the truth. And here's what I would say to people that might disagree with my position. Well, most of you out here are complaining about AI slop, right? Well, then why would you turn around and go, okay, I don't want AI slop because that's a cheap money grab scheme that you don't like, right? Well, what are they doing with modules? It's a cheap money grab scheme. So if you have a standard that you're against AI slop, why wouldn't what I'm saying here make a lot of sense to you? And if it is easy to do your own adventures without a module, why would you not want to see what your ideas are? Why would you want to put your creativity, smother it down with somebody else's module, somebody else's adventure? And imagine you could make an adventure from scratch, not all at once, develop it out for you and your players to see where your ideas go, to see where their ideas go. How exciting is that you develop something out of your own mind, your own creativity? I imagine a lot of you have ideas out there and you don't even really know how to apply them. You'll try to get them on. I've seen some guys take modules and try to put their own ideas. I'm like, dude, running your own adventure, you don't get to write it out like this. It's a very simple starting point. You put basic ideas into a city, and guess what? You just have the nerve to be brave and say, go. And you'll find that you can do it. That you can improvise, you can make stuff up. Your mind will work. Listen to your players. Your mind will produce something. And it doesn't always have to be perfect instantly, but you'll develop it into something amazing. And it will be something for you and your players. It will be your creativity, and they get to guide the game. Imagine freedom you can give to your players. They can go wherever they want and do whatever they want. You don't got to be intimidated, because it's not hard to do that. It's not hard to make up stuff. A lot of people think it is. That's why they avoid a lot of heavier improvisation. It's not. It's like the Quantum Ogre. Turn left or turn right. Well, you got the combat going right, but they want to turn left. Can you make it up? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You don't have to force them to the tower. You can let them walk away. Now, there could be consequences, and that will be creative in itself. Imagine they come back to the town. Well, it's being invaded by orcs that they were meant to go deal with. But, and that sounds bad, but isn't that not interesting? That is the outcome, and players have to learn that? That's an interesting way to learn. That's a, wow, we didn't deal with that. It came this, yeah. Or do you want the boring, they go to the thing and that's it? Boring. And if you think you can't make something amazing like the modules that you're playing, you're wrong. They started with a sandbox and simple, and they developed it out. They start off with ideas and develop all the twists and turns between sessions. Go back in, see what the players do with all this new work and ideas. And you build plots off what they're doing. It's not hard to connect things. Your mind will be inspired. Trust yourself. DM out there, trust yourself. Trust that ideas will come to you. Trust yourself. That's how you find out. That's how they made the module. They had to do the sandbox. They trust themselves. And once you know you can trust yourself, you'll come up with something. You will. You'll be inspired. You always will. It will amaze you. Like it will really amaze you that you can trust yourself and you can trust your players will have things to say. And don't be afraid to ask them because they're part of the team of you coming up with ideas. What do you guys think? Ask them between sessions. Ask them at a pause time. You're having that piece of, what do you guys think? Don't be afraid to ask questions like that. And you don't have to, you don't want to spoil things and just do exactly what the players think. But you can be inspired by what they say. In some cases, you might even just say, well, you want to know what? I'll just say they were right on that. Because they're trying to figure it out. But it's not like you have an answer. You don't got to tell anybody anything because you're coming up with ideas. So you could have wrote that down. They don't know. And so by the time they ran into it, guess what? Yeah, you guys had it figured out. But you're just taking the idea. And if the idea is good, boom, by the end of your run with your players, you'll realize, wow, it's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. And it will blow your mind. And once you learn sandboxing, like I did, you would never touch, like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I just got to say it to you. Once you realize how amazing your own adventures can be and how they're tailored to you and your players, it will make it hard for you to want to go to a module. Because you'll be so excited that you could even do this. You'll be surprised that you can pull it off, but you can. Now, guys that make money in the hobby off the money grab stuff, they'll be offended by what I'm telling you. They'll be mad at me. Because I'm giving you a secret, but it's not really a secret. It's just you don't know. It's not like it's hidden from you. You don't know. And TSR trusted that you didn't know. That's why they redefined the sandbox into modules. I give it to you, Philo. Top secret. What a meat on the bone for this one. You're going to enjoy. I know you will. Because I know you like. This is a lot here. A lot here. For a Rollmaster guy, I think you'll appreciate it. And I know you like some of this type of stuff. This be right up your alley. So, yeah, security clearance given. I think Craig just knows he has it. He just walks in. I'm here. Even if he didn't get the clearance, he would just walk in anyway. He'd be like, well, Steven's here, so I'm here. Oh, like, dude, I'll show you the nuke. Right? And yeah, there's stuff. When I was doing this all up and going through the details, I just said, I hope YouTube does not misunderstand this stream. Now, I just hope. There's so much in it that I'm just like, okay, don't take it as something else. It's a game. It's a game. Hey, algorithm. We're talking about tabletop role-playing games. Top secret tabletop role-playing games, right? But I'm really happy with the video I put out today because it was, I've been doing this for a while, but I wanted to make it clear to people what I was doing. Teaching them how to make their own stuff, especially for Dungeons and Dragons. And hey, like if you're going to find any value in my content as a D&D person, it's like Craig is saying, take ideas. All these games out here don't have to be your cup of tea. Like Craig comes here, even Philo comes here, and they'll listen to me talk about games that might not be their cup of tea, but these two know, especially Craig himself, knows, I like that idea. I'm taking that. And it's all interesting stuff because these are tabletop role-playing games. So within a game, there could be ideas that you could advance over to the thing that you play. And the D&D people, I already covered Dungeons and Dragons. In June, I'm going to have a stream dedicated to it, right? D&D, especially old school, right? It's going to be Thursdays, Dungeons and Dragons focused. And that's so I can cover these other games and talk about these other topics, but also appease you. But there's so much more here. And I get some of the guys in the hobby that make these money grab pieces of content, still making modules, making city campaign books. Look, here's what I would reassure them. People with the money will still buy your stuff. So put your artwork in, put your stuff in. You're likely to sell. But at the same time, I would tell guys, if that doesn't sell that well, you force these guys who have the means and the money, and you challenge them, well, hey, if you can't sell the money grab thing, you got to make a new game. How do you think Old School got new games? When the modules didn't sell, you get your Star Frontier. When the things aren't selling or there's no modules to begin with, you get Top Secret. You don't just get a clone of D&D, you get new games even from TSR. So, and again, I like some of the other models like World of Darkness doing not just an expansion, but you get Vampire the game, now you get a whole game for Werewolf, or you get a whole game for Magic or Palladium. You get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes Unlimited, Robotech. That's real stuff right there. That's just not a money grab. That's new games. And if we want new games now that are effective, that are good, you got to stop. This is why the OSR exists, or clones, or these money grab products. They exist because people are feeding it. So TSR, the more you buy the modules, the less games they brought out. So if you want to get new games, you need to make people feel like they have to make that to get your money. And so I want to teach people that all the things they think are really difficult for them are not. Sandboxing makes your own module. You can start a certain night with only a small town with some small hook ideas. You go, you let players do what they want. They can pick up on hook ideas you have out there, and you develop it from there. And just trust that you can put random stuff in. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. All kinds of tools, but trust yourself. Trust yourself that you will have something by the time you get to a certain spot, because that's what scares a lot of guys around. They think, oh man, what if I don't have an idea that night? You will. As long as you listen and go with it, you will. You will. So just trust that. And just trust on that first night running it with a new adventure starting. Nothing has to feel perfect because you haven't developed anything yet. So just relax. What you will start to develop after that first session will clean up any worry that you have. Because now you're forced. And that's great about creativity. Once you made a decision, you're forced. Espionage was used a lot in Napoleonic era, so tonight's stream might be helpful for my next game. I hear you about that. It's related to the Cold War. A lot of Cold War stuff here for Top Secret. The era, the timing. Like, there's so much meat on that bone. I don't got to do a lot of talking before we get to it. I know once I get there, I'm going to feed the need for Top Secret. Though Ghostbusters tomorrow night, I think a lot of people are just interested in that game because I think either a lot of people don't know about it, but the few that do are like, oh wow, it was like Max. Notice Max Liao just going, oh wow, somebody's covering that game. I haven't heard about that in forever. I'm like, yeah, I am. It's going to be fire for that one, right? Going to be good. Going to be good. Energetic tonight. In a good mood. Learning a lot more about the algorithm too for YouTube. So you take dips and you go back up, and you're in a fog wondering how that works. Well, I don't feel like I'm in a fog now. I'm not saying like I'm perfect, but I figured it out to the point of, okay, it does work like that. So I've changed my whole main page profile. I learned details that are overall true that I don't hear other guys talking about, but it's real. And there are certain elements of the algorithm that keep working a certain way no matter what changes they put in. And as long as you're not going after certain topics that YouTube will every so often put pressure on, or as long as you're not after that stuff, the algorithm does work a certain consistent way. I didn't know that, but I've learned a lot of details about the algorithm. It's what happens when you talk to people from their staff and you're not talking to an AI. I got lucky. I just got lucky a long time ago. I guess before they started putting all this AI interaction up or responses, I had connected with a guy who I found out that it depends on what account you talk to at YouTube. If you talk to certain accounts, it is AI respond to you. But there are some lighter accounts that take like third-party accounts that are YouTube, but they're still third party. And they take care of some manual stuff, and there's people there. And when I got 2 strikes, there was this one person I was talking to, and I got the strikes cleaned up each time through talking to that guy, not AI. And so I was able to talk a bit more to him and find out some things that I wish some guys around knew. I don't interact with them. And look, sorry guys, I don't want to tell you everything I know on a stream or in a video. I'm just not. I'm keeping it all to myself. I'll be real with you. I mean, I can hint, but I'm just not telling you. If I was better connected with some people, I would tell them what their issues are. Because I hear some guys out there, especially with bigger accounts around the old school, that complain and they say things that I know now is not accurate at all. It's not accurate. You're not being screwed over by YouTube. You just don't get it. I get it now that you don't get it. I didn't even know. I was ignorant. I didn't know they didn't get it because I didn't know. But now I know. Because I took a few dips and you can feel like the algorithm is screwing you or something's going wrong. Because I would be going up for a while and then suddenly going down. And what happened was I started going down a certain lane of not doing something and just doing one thing for a while. And that one thing had turned my numbers up. Okay. Then I've gone back and forth with some other things and went, oh, okay. Then had certain talks and went, that's why I didn't understand. Now Eureka has hit me. Eureka. I mean, you can pay attention to how I do YouTube. That might help. But yeah, and you're not going to be a super YouTuber with a big account to understand it and finally learn it. It's definitely going to help me because I don't get other cheap gimmicks. I don't do yes man stuff. So I don't do little cheap things that will get people here supporting me in ways that have nothing to do with the algorithm. So some people on here do grow rapidly. It's not to do with the algorithm. In a lot of cases, especially around the old school, it's yes man. When I criticize and say yes man content, I really mean that. And that really is how they go up. It definitely is not the algorithm. And if some reason they weren't doing that content, trust me, they have an issue. Some people just figure out the algorithm or maybe accidentally have figured it out. They think they know it, but then other things don't work for them, right? They'll have videos going good, but why not the streams? I know why. So if some guys I see out there in the old school even get like 1,000 or so views per video they're putting out. They still don't totally understand it. But I do now. Right? And if now, like one guy covering AD&D 1E, when he runs out of topics, and that will happen soon, he'll start going back to some of the ways he covered things before. He's going to notice I won't tell him why, but there's going to be a dip in change when that happens. And he won't get it. I promise you, he won't get it. Won't even know who I'm talking about. But I don't communicate with these guys. So if I was on friendlier terms, I'd help them. But if you lie about me, block me, or you cause me to block you, if you're just shitty with me, why should I help you? It's a scratch my back, I scratch yours gimmick, right? Got to play fair ball for me to want to help you. I feel empowered by learning about the algorithm. So that's good. It changes my whole view of YouTube and how I'm going to do content going forward. Yeah, it just changes my whole view. X is still something I'm still wary about. So they've changed their algorithm recently. Guys are gaming that system, and I've realized how. So I can't game it that way. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's going to be more simple than people assume. I see people doing these big posts. This is how it works, and it's like sorta. And then some bigger accounts not getting the views they've gotten before. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think YouTube has a pretty good way of going about it without gaming it too much. But again, if you gaming, you can't really game the algorithm. You can game the audience itself. That's what some of the guys do here. They hit a shallow part of the audience, like attacking people. That can grow you fast. That's not the algorithm helping you out. That's the people, right? You just, because there are parts of the audience can react to you in a certain way, regardless of algorithm. So you got to sort of look at the audience like an animal, right? Like a sort of a group. Some can be shallow. You can get their shallow side and grow. That will not be due to the algorithm. But the algorithm can favor you a bit while you're doing that. But if you're not doing certain things like that, the algorithm is just not, it's not helping you. It's why you're at 10,000 and not at 40. It's why you'll see accounts out there going, hey, why is he at 40,000? I'm only at 10,000. Because that guy knows something. Or he's just lucky. Some people just play to the algorithm and they don't even know it. They have no idea. They have no idea. But if you look at what they're like, they have no idea. But the algorithm, they are playing to it. If you can figure it out, good luck. Some people out there know it. But it's way more simple. Some people do videos, they think they're helping you. And in a way they are, but their explanation can be so complicated that it annoys me. I'll hear a guy like do a video on YouTube, the algorithm. Here's how you do it. And I'm like, and then they'll say, copy this. Now, this is where I know they're wrong. You can copy these type of titles over here. That will get you going somewhere. Nah, you're not going to do that. Or we can copy these thumbnails. Nope, don't going to do that either. You can do it all original without copying people's shit once you know how it really works. And so in a way, I think either they know it or they're deceiving you and say, come to me, because some of them will be selling this stuff to you. Hey, if you want to pay and join our group, we can give you this stuff. And I could do that, but in reality, that would be deceitful and scamming you, right? Even so, they might know the algorithm pretty well, but they'd be deceiving you if they say you need to take a title or a thumbnail. Or some guys will accidentally be playing it right and they think they know, so they'll tell you this stuff. They're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to say more about the algorithm. There you go. I've learned about it, which is good. It's good because I don't do cheap gimmick stuff. So I need to get the algorithm where it works with me so I can, because I earn people. I don't do the shallow part of the audience stuff. So everybody who comes to my channel that's going to give me support, I have to earn that straight up with them. I'm not playing to a shallow side of who they are. So I got to earn their respect by showing them I know what I'm talking about with tabletop role-playing games. Like from Craig, the Black Rose. Black Rose started off disagreeing with me, was a little mad at me at first. Now he's on board. So I have to prove to people every time that I know my shit. And once I prove it to them, I get their likes, I get their support. But hey, I do ask, if you do like. And hey, if you're out there and you like what I'm doing, subscribe to the channel. Don't stay unsubscribed, subscribe. And if you can handle a bit of disagreement, like I put in the video the other day, look, some things I'm going to say that you might not agree with, but if you notice, I can have an interaction on here with my chat. They can clearly disagree with me on something, and we can still end the night peaceful, and they're still here. So I have views on storytelling. I think they're pretty convincing because I'm right. I'll say I'm right. But I mean, the guys don't have to agree with me. And they'll make statements that obviously don't agree. And we're still fine by the end of the night. Like what I say doesn't stop them from doing whatever they do. They know that. And they know I'm good on all these other things. And they even know that if I disagree with them, it won't be from some illogical place. So even if they disagree, they know I haven't got to my opinion in some stupid way. They just might not agree, but they'll realize, well, okay, his reasoning is not bad, even if they don't disagree, or even if they disagree with me. So it's keeping that respect with people, right? There's the other guys out there that really think doing a special voice enhances immersion. I'll personally tell you, I know it doesn't for damn sure, right? Because I understand manipulation and the imagination. And so a special voice can be a very talented thing that first night. Overall, won't make a difference in the long run. And these games are less about you doing a special voice anyway, even though tone helps with immersion. It's more about what you say. I don't care how special your voice is. If you talk to a faction leader and you can't get the faction to change their mind, you can't negotiate with an enemy and get them to back off. You can't talk to a merchant and get the price down. If you can't do that stuff, but you do a special voice, what the hell does that matter to the game? The game is doing these things, so you have to say the right words to get people to do things. Now, if you add tone in there and people are playing on their imagination, like a little tone change works. If you're a guy doing a female merchant, soften your tone and then use words, proper words that the female merchant would use. Don't talk with your own cadence. Talk like you think she would talk, and it works. And if you don't get people that really overthink this stuff, ask them after a session as a game master. Hey, did you take the female merchant in as a female? Yeah. No problem. Totally in. Completely immersed. And I mean completely immersed. Completely. Like to the point where a special voice factually, in fact, will not enhance the immersion. There's a limit. You reach your ceiling. I mean, you can only be so immersed, unless you're engulfing yourself in water here, right? Immersion does have a limit. You hit your ceiling. You can't enhance it more by doing a special, unique voice. So once you know that reality, then you realize the guy who does a special, unique voice, it doesn't automatically mean he's better than you as a player or as a game master. And that a tone change, and you can still be funny, you can still be creative with the NPC, you can do all these things so you can be funny, serious, whatever. Use proper words for the NPC, change your tone to fit what you think the NPC is. Soften it if you think it's a softer speaking woman. If it's a more, big guard, thick guy, your tone goes up and use the proper words. Players will take it in properly because they're in the midst of imagining. So you realize you don't got to do a special voice and it goes up here. What you really need to do for social interaction in a tabletop role-playing game, especially D&D, to be successful is you got to get the merchant to lower the price. You got to get the enemy to back off through negotiation. This is what makes you a good player through social interaction. You got to get the faction to change their mind, make the deal. And if you can do that, you're a great player. One of the best at the table when it comes to talking. And the guy who does a special voice, it will not mean that he's better than you. And even as a DM, it will not mean that DM is better than you. Once you understand manipulation through tone and the imagination, and you've done this as much as I have, you realize right away it just doesn't hold water. It's people using false evidence to claim greatness, and it just isn't so. Right? And I know a lot of guys out there that might not be good as game masters or that good, but they do special voices, so they're great, right? No, false evidence doesn't mean greatness. I know a lot of players out there, not too wise when it comes to social interaction, fails in a lot of situations, but they do a unique voice. That means they're better than you. Nope, false evidence of greatness. It's not real. And why get mad at me? Don't you want to know what I'm telling you? If I'm right, that means anybody can do social interaction and do it well. And we're not in a competition. We're here to play a game and escape. It's escapism to have a good time. You want to do well. It's all you're aiming for to begin with, so you can have fun. This is not a sport where we're competing with each other to see who's better. What we're aiming for is to have a great experience. And if that really is the aim, and I'm right, and I am, I'll say so, well, then why would you want to not know what I'm telling you? Why would you want to push an agenda over bullshit that's not true? How does it benefit you? Honestly. I mean, what, are you a crap player? Are you a crap DM out there or game master? And you cover your ass by doing voices? Is that why you'd be mad at me? You're insecure? You're not that great of a game master, but one of your covers is, well, I sort of suck at these other things, but I do great voices. Or you're a player out there, well, I fucking can't talk anybody into anything, but I can do a special voice. That makes me better. No, it doesn't, dude. That's not how that works. You're full of shit. Got to be real with you, right? We're not doing a stage play. If you were doing a character in a cartoon, or you're up doing drama class on stage, fair enough. Or I'm talking about the special voice when it comes to the people you're gaming with. Now, can the special voice be effective for an onlooker, somebody who's not in the game watching? Well, yeah, then you could seem like you're impressive. But directly in the game, will it make you better than the next player? No. And these games are not about the onlooker. They're about the people you game with. Therefore, special voice can only interfere with a game experience. For the most part, that's exactly it. Honestly, I find that to be true, right? And you'll notice that guys who do special voices, they'll get tired. The voice can linger some nights where they just want to play the game, because it can take an effort to do a voice all night. And you'll see guys just sort of, all right, they're not really on the voice so much tonight. But once they realize they don't have to, and like you're saying, Craig, and this is true, it can take away, because it creates an illusion of something that's not real. That's all it is. It's an illusion of something that's not real. It is more effective, and the manipulation, all that's more minor. Minor stuff works better with the imagination through forms of manipulation. I say manipulation not as some bad thing. You're not manipulating to attack people. It is just a descriptor. It's a word that's describing what is happening. As a game master, you manipulate with information. If I tell you so much, if I tell you a little bit about a place that I'm telling you that you see, you assume things. Now, if I understand what's happening, I can add more information, and by doing so, it changes your view. And if I know that's what's happening, I am manipulating. And I can manipulate with more information or less information, knowing that if I give you less, I know you're going to fill the gaps in. So manipulation is understanding people assume and fill gaps in when they have less information. Once you know that, you can purposely give less information for the point of understanding people will automatically fill the gaps in through assumption. So the more information you give, the less assumption takes over. You start providing information to avoid assumption, to avoid gap filling. Now, once you know you're doing that, that's a thing to know as a game master. I'm teaching you something here, right? So, and you could say, like, you're putting information in there to avoid assumption. Assumptions will still come, but there's less of them. They'll be more towards something else. The less you give, the more gaps people will try to fill in. That's psychology. It's understanding human behavior. Now, as a game master, if you understand human behavior, you understand that you are manipulating, but it's not a bad thing. It's part of the social contract. Players understand, like, this is the agreement you have going in, right? You're manipulating, but not for a bad reason, to create an experience for them. And the manipulation is meant to create an experience that is good for them, not something where you're harming them through manipulation. It's just manipulation is an information thing. You give less, they fill in with more assumptions and trying to fill in the gaps. That's what they do. The more you give, the less assumption. And then sometimes you give too much. That's where you got to learn how not to give long-winded descriptions of an area. I want the imagination to actually fill in a lot. So there's one thing to get you to fill in the gaps and through assumption when I'm giving you, say, a lack of information about a building, right? But if I want your imagination to work well, sometimes, say I'm the descriptor going into a room, I give you the basic stuff that's in the room and I let your imagination go, right? I only give you what you need to hear, because the more long-winded I get in explanation, the more you start trying to take all that information in and form your, the picture through your imagination. It can get messy. So in a way, that's why I say long-winded descriptions of a room are no good. You want to give just what people need to know about the room and let them fill in the rest, and do not worry. People just do. It's like a setting. You think you have to describe every part of a city or place they're walking through. No, you don't. Maybe a specific building you want them to know about, but what you want to do before the game even starts is make sure players know the setting, they know the timeline, they have information they're going to use to start assuming things when they're trying to picture something. All you got to do is say, you're walking down the street. You see buildings on either side of you. You can let them fill it in. You can give some specifics. Don't worry about what they assume colors of buildings are. All that won't matter as long as they understand the setting. They'll be like, okay, medieval buildings, medieval place. You can give them an essence of a place before they get into it. You can help their assumptions even more through their imagination. And again, it's all through manipulation on the imagination, on top of manipulation on what they're going to think when you say, okay, you see a building and two guys outside doing this. Like you say something and they could be assuming those guys are either doing something good or something bad. How much information you'll be giving them, that's where they start assuming and filling in the gaps. It sounds more complicated than it is. And what you do as a game master is you learn this over time. I ran thousands of sessions for thousands of players. I know I say it all the time, but it's true, right? So over time, I just ran for a lot of people. And I've seen this over and over and over and over again until I learned it. And when I started with my first real game master in organized play, it was a military specialist who specialized in manipulation. So he was really good at already using these concepts in the game by learning the stuff outside of the game through his military training. Basically, he was in a different part of the military. But he taught me a lot about using manipulation through information, assumptions, and information as far as filling in the imagination. So you let people imagine what they want. You let them, because they'll paint a better picture for themselves, for example, of a room than you ever could. Give them the basics, they'll take care of the rest. That's all. The more you try to paint that up in long-winded speeches, the more messy it gets in their mind. That's what happens. It gets messier and messier and messier. Just saying, you don't want to do that. It's like it's overkill. You overkill with long-winded speeches on descriptions of a place, a building, a room, or whatever. You just don't need to do that. Give basics, let them take care of the rest. Once you know this stuff, it's magic. Like I just told you, very important stuff. You go to Game Master next time after hearing this. You'll now know. There's no way. I've just planted seeds in your mind that you can't avoid if you heard me. So the next time you're running a game, you'll know as you go to describe a room, oh, okay. Am I messing up their imagination by talking for too long, trying to fill the picture myself? Like, you're trying to paint the whole picture yourself, you'll notice that the more you say, the more your players can get confused. They'll start asking questions. What did you say the thing was over here? Don't do that. Just give them what they need to know, basics. But you'll be like, oh man, I want to give an interesting speech. Players will not care. You think giving some poetic speech about the description of a room is something that sells the game for them. They don't. Players love to hear the basics. Here's a chair, here's a bed, here's a whatever, the room is this. Players are in the midst of playing the game. I just want you to think about this. They're in the middle of playing the game. They're not judging your speech. As long as you give them the information they need, that's because they're playing a game. They're not worried. Now, the onlooker might care about the poetic speech that you're giving, right? The onlooker. All right, give me a moment. Okay. But yeah, once you realize this, you realize a poetic speech about a description of a room doesn't really sell the way you think to the players playing the game. It might be something that appeals to the onlooker or the person listening in. But to the players, you giving the basic information is great. Oh, that's because they're in the midst. Just think about the mindset of your players. They're trying to play the game. That's what they're trying to do. So if you think your poetic speech, long-winded speech about the description of the room is selling the room any better to them than just giving them the basic information, you've gotten lost. It sells it better when you get basic because now they can play to their imagination, which is where the game is happening. So you just got to realize you're just working. Give the players what they need. Let them play the game because that's what they're doing. It's a game. They're playing with their mind, right? So you let them play. If you don't believe me on this stuff or think I'm full of shit, try it. Talk to your players afterwards. Oh, could I have done a more poetic speech or were you happy with the basic description? They'll all be happy with it. They won't even notice it was a thing. They won't care at all and they'll think you're a fine game master. And you'll realize right away, you mean I didn't have to do that? No, you don't have to do that. And actually, the more you talk, the more you mess with what they are doing. Because they are playing the game. People don't want to hear that or they're get annoyed. They don't want to hear me describe this stuff because I'm right. I'm claiming I'm right anyway. Claiming. But I've done this a lot of times. So when I've done the long speeches in the past, when I started realizing after trying with basics on certain nights, hey, are you guys having a better time when I do the long speech? Oh, no, we had a good time. It was a great session. Oh, okay, so you're just in the midst of playing. And I'm just a game master running the game for you, right? Yeah. See, once you get that, it relaxes you because you realize your job isn't as difficult as you think it might be, especially in some areas of the game. Like that tone thing without doing a special voice. Just saying the words right for the NPC they're meeting. Like a faction leader. Get the tone right for what kind of character you think it is. Give a little description maybe of who it is. And then talk words you think that person would say. Don't use your own cadence for every character. That can be bad. That could be something your players will actually notice. Right? Will actually notice. I hope you're not... I have a guest. I hope you're not hearing too much talking in the background. I'm sure that will go away very soon. But either way, cadence is really, really, really important. You don't want to be, you don't want to worry about cadence, or you don't want to have your own cadence. If you're talking like yourself for a lot of different characters, players will notice that. So that's why I personally say tone change is important. You're not going to do a special voice, but tone change is very important. Change tone from NPC to NPC. Very important. And don't talk like you would talk for every NPC. That, like, however that guy would talk, say the words he would say. Don't say it in the way that you would say it. That's all. That's focus on that. That's all you got to do. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. Had just add to guess. Hey man, you because he has his deep voice. I'm having a hard time competing with you, right? I don't like that. I don't like that. You can visit, but I don't want to compete with you during a fucking live stream. That's don't want to do that. Too much competition. But I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. A lot of guys out there, I do find when they do their own cadence, that's if you ask players afterwards, like, hey, do you notice the difference between NPC to NPC? They won't, but they'll put up with it. A lot of players put up with stuff sadly without ever telling you. That's a sad thing too. It took me a long time to learn how to talk to players and get them to really come out and tell me the truth. Like, hey, what's the cadence like? So don't just casually talk like you for every fucking NPC and only occasionally do a voice here for this guy or voice here for this guy. Or even when you do a voice for somebody, don't talk with your cadence. Don't talk the way you would talk for every fucking NPC. That's important. That is really important. Slight tone change, no unique voice, and what really plays to the imagination, what really makes them think about that character being separate from who you are as a game master, is you making sure you say words that NPC would say separate from the way you talk in life. So that's really important. If you talk a certain way, every NPC, the idea they should talk different than you would talk. It's not much, but go listen to my video where I do the farmer guy, Joe the farmer. It's all I do is change the tone for him, right? And I talk the way he would talk. And right away he becomes a different character. Everyone who's listened to that gives me a reaction says, yeah, like one guy thought I was playing a certain type of trickster god or something like that. He was telling me, but it's a slight tone change. And then I talk words I think that person would say, right? And then I do the character, I do the DM guy. But it's a bit of my own cadence, but then I watch my words. Again, sorry about the timing on the alarms. I can't control some things in life. I don't get a soundproof room, sadly. Wish I did. And I can't really mute. I'm not on a panel where somebody else can take over talking for me. So sorry about that. At least it didn't last long. So we're good. But that minor thing, that video where I do Joe the Farmer, Joe is tone change. And then I say words the way he would talk. And note the difference between the DM character and him is I speak differently, use different words for the other character. He speaks a bit more, hey, you know what I mean? Casually, on purpose, tone change to casual. And then I use certain words. It's not just me. Words for that. I made them both characters. And then you jump to Joe the Farmer. I give him a thicker tone and I watch how I speak for him differently. And that's how I separate the two characters. Your imagination will take that in just on tone change without needing to do a unique voice. Like just tone change does it. I'm glad this is happening before 8 o'clock, before we get to the top secret. And I hope that I am helping some people out there. And if you think what I'm saying to you is wrong, just go test it out in your game if you're a game master, right? Or even if you're a player, tone change, speak the way your character would speak. Don't speak with your own cadence. That's why I say, guys, I don't like guys that are like, man, you play, I'll meet a guy named like Tim. Here's my problem with you, Tim. It's when you play characters, it's Tim the fighter, Tim the cleric, Tim the wizard, Tim the thief. And he'll be like, well, what do you mean? I'm trying to play a different character. Well, you never change your tone, and you always just speak like with your own cadence. You just talk like Tim in life. That's Tim the fighter. That's Tim the cleric. And that's boring as shit. You're role playing, right? Appreciate your character might speak a little differently than you. It doesn't take much to give a slight tone change, depending if you're playing a dwarf or you're playing like, an elf, right? Tone will be different. You can give a slight different tone, not a unique voice, and realize these characters are different. So why would he, the elf, talk like the dwarf? He wouldn't. They're both just talking like you, Tim. It's your cadence without tone change. You bore the shit out of me. That's not proper role play as far as social interaction. So I hate guys that go, I played Tim the fighter, Tim the cleric. I'm like, that's boring as shit, dude. Stop boring me, because now I can't take that into my imagination. It's just Tim after the game. I'm just going to keep hearing you talk like you, like your character, like piss off, right? If you want to go play a board game for real, don't play a fucking role-playing game, because a role-playing game does expect you to give a shit a bit about this element of the game. Just a slight bit. If not, go play an MMO, go play the board game, go play checkers, right? This game does expect a slight bit of story emerges. So there's elements of storytelling, but it's not storytelling. There's elements of some form of acting, tone change. Watch how that elven character would speak differently than the dwarven character. So the words you use should be to think, how would he say something as far as what words would he use compared to the other guy? And it doesn't take much to achieve that. So when I hear players out there where it's like, Tim, just his cadence, his voice, nothing changes. Just go fucking play checkers, dude. Go play a fucking board game. Stop trying to play a role-play game. Even D&D expects some form of giving a fuck about social interaction. That's why, even from OD&D and on, they have things for the merchant reaction, you dealing with factions, you negotiating with the monster or your enemy to avoid fights. So there is an expectation of social interaction, even from the earliest part of the game. So it's not called a role-playing game because you're playing a fucking board game, Tim. I don't need to hear modern-day Tim, the fighter, in a medieval setting. Right? It's medieval, dude. Appreciate the timeline. Appreciate your character. At least try to use some words that aren't you, Tim, from 2026. I mean, don't we criticize 5e people? Where they'll be like, well, there's a person. That's just a character from Seattle in modern time. Nothing's different. Well, I'm like, guess what? The old school has enough of those people too. Let's be real. They might not be on a certain political ride, but we have those kinds of people too. That speak just Tim from 2026. Same cadence, no fucking change. The dwarf sounds just like his elf. Fuck off. At least try, my man. At least fucking try. Just try, because the imagination doesn't need much. So the other players and me, the game master, a slight effort allows me to imagine a different character. Oh, that's cool. That's your elf, Tim. That's how he speaks. A slight attempt to change a bit of tone. Cool. That is separate from you, Tim. Cool. And then when I talk to Tim afterwards, I'm not just hearing his fucking elf and dwarf. Sorry about that Tim guy made up. But I do that in the video with Joe the Permer. Tone change, words he would say. The other character, casual tone, words he would say. And the imagination only needs that. That's how powerful our imagination is. And when it comes to imagination, you got to realize how powerful it is. And the way you'll know how powerful your imagination is, read a book. Read any storybook. Just realize how strong it is. So it only needs a minor bit. And there you go. Your imagination is off. That's why a unique voice or a special voice is not necessary. Tone change, that's all. Imagination is fucking powerful. It will take care of the rest. Giving you a fucking education because I have real experience. You don't get to talk like me just because you fucking started or you haven't fucking ran the game too many times or put. I've done it for decades, lots of times, and you don't talk with my wisdom unless you've done this, a lot, right? You learn these things over repeated amount of times doing them, and you pick up the wisdom. They don't. What I'm telling you, they don't teach in the fucking books. So I hope that separates my channel, my content from other people. You go listen to the AD&D 1E coverage. The guy tells you what it says in the book. You come over to my coverage, I'll tell you shit that's not in the fucking text. Right? Because I have real wisdom. Not trying to brag, just saying true, because I've done it and I picked up real wisdom over time. And my wisdom will be more valuable to your experience than just some guy telling you what it says in the book. You can go read the fucking book. You can't just go read about what I'm telling you. You have to come here and hear it from me. Or you can go run 1,000 sessions for a lot of players, and you can learn that on your own. Good luck. Good luck. Most never hit 1,000 sessions in their entire gaming career, right? I've done shitloads. So I can help you. I can speed you to an area that can take you a long time to get to, right? So without hearing it from me, it would take you forever to learn. That's why guys are out there guessing. The guys that say special voices make you better, more immersed, that's guessing. That's guessing. I don't guess. I know. Big difference. And that's why I can explain it to you in detail in ways other guys can't. They can, well, it's more immersive. I'll explain that. Well, it just is. Can you explain it deeper than that? No, because they're fucking guessing. That's why they can't. I get a kick out of guys that are guessing that will disagree with me. Well, you're guessing, but I can explain my side. And want to know why? Because I know. So I can explain it. I'm doing a little bit of chain smoking, so it's just because when I go into this top secret stuff, I won't be smoking at all. And there's a lot, so I'll be talking for a while. And forgive me, I'll probably be a few minutes past 8 here, but whatever. You're free to comment. But I'm teaching. Getting a bit of lecture from a real experienced person. Because I'm teaching. I'm here teaching class. Welcome to Steven's Gaming Class 101. Professor Steven here, teaching you how this really works. With confidence, baby. Because I'm the real deal. I hope you're entertained. I hope you're well informed. I hope you're everything. Jeez, get some energy tonight. I'm good to go. I'm hyped for Top Secret, but I want to let me complete this because I don't want to start on that with this in the hand. That part of the coverage you could watch without needing to watch me do this. This is I call my casual time my Joe Rogan time. So I'm forgiving about that. Like, I'm like in the Joe Rogan casual stage where he'll puff and he'll do things when he's on his podcast. In my casual time, I allow myself to get away with it. So I hope that doesn't turn you off when I'm being casual. But when I go into the actual coverage of the game, this gets dropped. Now, if on casual nights, like off script nights, if I do read some material, I probably still smoke too during those nights. Like I'll let myself, because that's off script. I still consider even that part casual, right? Casual. But welcome to my class, baby. I teach you stuff. I know stuff I guarantee most of the other content creators don't know. But they'll hear me, and then they'll go on their stream and talk like they know this shit. They got to hear me first. That's how they learn it. Then they go and pretend that they've known this the entire time. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, sure. Where's the rest of your content where you say that? Oh, shit. There is no other fucking content where you say that. Glad you were here listening to me so I could teach you so you can go pretend to be me. A lot of people pretend to be me. Sorry to say, just true. And they do it because they know their audience doesn't watch my shit, so they hear me. It's like my descriptions about D&D recently, about survival and all that. You go to their streams, there's nowhere in this shit in the past where they said anything like I say. Suddenly, they're fucking geniuses. Suddenly, after they hear me say it, they go on their stream. They're like, yeah, I know this stuff. I even throw certain names out there. No, I won't mention a certain name. There's this very popular guy who has a bit of an attitude, really sticks to politics. He's done a few videos after he's watched my content, and then he'll talk like he knows all that shit. I'm like, yeah. Whereas, let me see. Well, wait, back here, your opinion contradicts that. So why did you suddenly change your mind? Why are you saying this advice back here, but now you got advice that contradicts that? It's what I say. It's not what you said back here and here and here. But how convenient, right after I've done my content, you come out with a video talking like me. But my opinions contradict your various opinions back here. And you've never said it before. I made it public. How fucking convenient. Glad you're a wise guy now, right? Fucking sakes. AD&D 1E guys. Most of them do it raw from a module. Aren't creative that well. I just got to be real, especially the clone guys that do clones for OSR stuff. So I'm like, yeah. Like they'll go describe. I get a kick out of it. Some guys will be over there. Well, you'll be more immersed when you develop a character. It could take like a year or so. I'm like, well, that guy hasn't done second edition. Want to know how I know? Because you could do that same development in like 2 weeks to a month. 2 weeks speeds up the entire process. But if you've only done AD&D 1E, you don't fucking know this. So, of course, you give the old AD&D 1E explanation to how that works, which takes forever because the game doesn't guide you towards character development that way. Right? It just didn't realize that was going to be valuable. That's something you accidentally discover after a player has been playing a character for a long time. You just go, oh, wow, he's developed the character finally without trying. But you realize if a player puts the slightest bit of effort early into just getting to that point early without just it randomly happening, wow, they're immersed, they have a separate character, and they're already more stable in the campaign. Sorry, top with an attitude on this shit. I try not to be too egotistic about this stuff. I try not to be. I don't want my head to get too big, but it's just some guys out there with really big heads pretend to know more about this stuff than they actually know. Guessing, and guessing. A lot of guessing. People come to me because they know I know this shit. That's how I build up credibility. Because they know I know. And anything I say, that's why I did that video about the 5e guys, where I have to keep correcting their mistakes. People go listen to their content. They do the guessing advice. The guy goes to his table. He tries. It doesn't work. And he's like, okay, Steven, I know you're old school, but my game is flopping. Can you help me? Yeah, I'll save your campaign for you. Here's what you do. Here's what you do to save your campaign. And he takes my advice, and it works even at a 5e game. Because it's real. It's like you're safe. He'll come to me because he knows, oh, here's Steven around. He knows. I'm like, yeah, I know. But see, to be honest, like me, I can't play Yes Man. So there's a shallow side to the old school audience that I can't play to. So I can't jet up, and a lot of guys are stuck to AD&D 1E. So if I don't cover that in a certain way, I can't jet up with them. And then there's some guys, I swear, between all of you and me, they're jealous, and so they'll attack me all the time just to try to keep up, I guess. I don't know. It's even weirder when you got guys that are huge accounts that will compete with you in that way, even though you're a smaller YouTuber, which just tells you insecurity, and they have that fake issue. It's like, it's true. You're probably trying to sit on a throne you don't deserve to be on. That's why you feel that way. To me, it's like outside of YouTube, in the real hierarchy of the hobby for where I'm at, I know I'm here. So I know a lot of YouTubers are here, but on the YouTube game and the shallow side, they're here right now, and I'm here. But in the real overall hobby, if you go back to the old way it was before YouTube, and the hierarchy of the hobby, I'm here and they're here, right? But YouTube can make you think they're here and I'm here. But in reality, in the hobby, I'm here and they're here. And they know it and they feel it. So they'll come at me like I'm a bigger YouTuber sometimes. So you might notice this. Bigger YouTubers come at me as if I have a bigger account. Even though I'm a small YouTuber, I'll have guys dedicate whole streams to me. You'd only do that if I was a bigger YouTuber. But why would you even perceive me that way to begin with? Why would you react to me as if I have a bigger account? Weird, eh? Having guys do complete streams. They don't do that. They'll do it with guys that are bigger accounts, like a Scott. But why would they do it to me with a smaller account? Because it's perception. I'm perceived to be higher up the ladder, in a way I am, right? So, see, with a smaller account, sometimes they'll act like I have way more sway than I should have. Given if I have a smaller account, how could I have that much sway to begin with? Why would you attack me as if I do? And then at the same time, you talk about me like I have more sway. I hear so many guys out there, no one takes you serious, Steven. I'm like, you do? Maybe if you stop taking me so serious while you're telling me nobody does, I might not think you take me serious. Maybe if you had ignored me like I'm a small YouTuber, I would think nobody takes me that serious. But if you're fixated on me, well, then you're taking me serious. If every second comment I'm making on a place like X you're reacting to, well, then I guess you're taking me serious, right? Stop taking me serious. Okay. I've talked enough shit. Probably too much. But it is what it is. That's how I can get. I won't mention names. We'll leave it at that. Time to start the coverage. I hope you all are ready for this. This is going to be some good stuff. Okay. Top secret. Influence and birth. Old TSR James Bond style of game. I say James Bond because it's easier to understand that. You'll get that. The core idea behind the game. When TSR released Top Secret in 1980, they were trying to answer a major question facing the early RPG hobby. What happens when role-playing moves beyond fantasy? A lot of people get sick of fantasy. We're definitely going to be talking about a game. It's not about fantasy. At that time, TSR was almost completely associated with Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy adventure, swords and sorcery, dungeon exploration. But the late 1970s were also filled with Cold War paranoia, spy thrillers, intelligence agencies, covert operations, political conspiracies, assassinations, secret technology. Popular culture was saturated with James Bond, Mission Impossible, spy fiction, CIA, KGB fascination, Post-Watergate distrust of institutions. Top Secret emerged directly from that environment. TSR realized role-playing games could move into modern settings, espionage, investigation, covert operations, realistic contemporary conflict. That was still a relatively new idea in commercial RPGs at the time. Merle Rasmussen and the creation of the game. The game was designed by Merle M. Rasmussen. He was not simply trying to make D&D with spies. He was trying to create a game where players approached problems like intelligence agents. Rasmussen began developing the game in the mid-1970s, refining it before TSR published it. Oh, wait. Let me say that again. Start here again. Rasmussen began developing the game in the mid-1970s. A lot of text here. I'm reading through my own thing. I usually don't write it out this way because a lot of text. So Rasmussen began developing the game in the mid-1970s while attending Iowa State University and spent years refining it before TSR published it. Correction. That development process reflects a major part of early RPG culture: experimentation, genre expansion, simulation ideas, adapting wargame thinking into role-playing. TSR during this era constantly experimented outside of fantasy: espionage, science fiction, superheroes, gangsters, post-apocalyptic survival, westerns. Top Secret came directly out of that experimental TSR period. Top Secret is generally regarded as the first major espionage tabletop RPG. That historical importance matters because it helped establish espionage RPGs, modern setting role-playing, covert mission gameplay, investigation-focused adventures. Later games would build on this space. James Bond 007, which I covered recently. Espionage. Mercenary, spies, and private eyes. Spycraft. Before Top Secret, commercial RPGs were still heavily dominated by fantasy, wargaming, science fiction. Top Secret helped prove modern-day role-playing games could work commercially. That was a major step forward in the hobby. Now, this is the fluff. I just want you to understand this is next. I'll be getting into how to run the game. We'll get into the meat then. Character creation, the setting, and I'll finish it off with a thing I called worth mentioning, just stuff that don't fit in these parts, or just an overall emphasis on some of the stuff that I'm not going to overly emphasize as I'm giving you advice for how to run the game or how to make characters. One of the most important things to understand about old school Top Secret: even though it was an espionage game, it still carried heavy TSR and wargaming DNA. You see this in procedural play, mission structure, tactical planning, equipment management, operational thinking, charts and tables, careful resource use, high lethality. The game often expected players to gather intelligence first, avoid unnecessary combat, plan infiltration carefully, think tactically, operate cautiously. That mentality came directly from old school war game influence. Combat was often dangerous enough that charging blindly into situations could end badly very quickly. This is one of the biggest differences between old TSR Top Secret and later cinematic espionage RPGs. The game was not pure simulation. At the same time, old Top Secret was not a pure realism simulator. It still had obvious TSR RPG structure underneath, advancement systems, level style progression ideas, classic RPG reward structure, strong game mechanics inherited from early TSR design philosophy. So the game is set in an interesting middle ground, part espionage simulation, part old school TSR RPG. The mixture gave the game a very distinct feel. It was trying to simulate covert operations while still remaining recognizably part of the early TSR RPG family. Now, anyone who's played the old game will relate with everything I'm saying. Like if you've actually tried TSR's Top Secret, not the newer editions or the newer versions, but if you've done this, you know everything I'm saying is spot on. Cold War influence was everywhere. The original game is deeply tied to the Cold War culture, not modern superhero espionage. Cold War espionage, the tone heavily emphasized secret agencies, intelligence gathering, covert missions, hidden networks, double agents, border operations, international conspiracies, information warfare. But the game was not completely grounded realism either. Grounded in realism either. The original Top Secret sits somewhere between gritty intelligence fiction and early Bond-style covert adventures. More like Mission Impossible in many ways. Depending on the adventure and GM style, campaigns could swing between careful intelligence operations, dangerous tactical infiltrations, pulpy action missions, gadget-driven spy adventures. That flexibility became part of the game's identity. Why Top Secret was important historically. Top Secret helped prove several major things to the RPG industry. One, RPGs could move beyond fantasy. This seems obvious now. It was not obvious in 1980. Two, modern day settings could sustain campaigns. Players could become invested in spies, agents, covert operations, conspiracies, intelligence missions without fantasy elements. Now, we know that today a lot of people love games without fantasy. Didn't know it then. Three, or at least the guys making the stuff didn't know for sure this was going to be a thing. Three, tactical problem solving could drive role play. The game rewarded caution, planning, intelligence gathering, infiltration, operational thinking rather than simply fighting everything directly. Four, genre RPGs had commercial potential. Games like Top Secret helped open the door for cyberpunk, military RPGs, conspiracy games, modern horror, realistic sci-fi settings. The old school TSR feel. This is what I put at the top of this. Old school Top Secret has a very different feeling from later versions. The original TSR era game feels procedural, experimental, tactical, chart heavy. This is why I was telling Philo earlier, given he's a role master guy, that he'd like this. This is the reason. It's definitely a chart heavy game. Chart master there, Philo, if you're still listening in. So chart heavy, cautious, Cold War influenced, mission focused, sometimes awkward in design, but that awkwardness is part of the charm. It feels like a company exploring what else can role-playing games become. That experimentation is deeply tied to early TSR culture. Okay, this is an important addition distinction. The original Top Secret and early TSR material are very different from later versions like Top Secret SI, modern robots, newer cinematic editions. The early TSR game leaned more towards operational play, tactical espionage, procedural missions, Cold War atmosphere, cautious agent gameplay. Later versions moved forward towards cinematic action, larger than life agents, gadget heavy play, faster pacing, blockbuster spy adventures. The evolution mirrors the broader shift in RPG design during the 1980s. Okay, there's your fluff opening. It's your background, who made it, lead you into the better stuff here. The stuff you're really here for, which is the advice, how to run it, how to make a character. All the big gamey stuff. But that's important stuff to know. A lot of people know about the newer top secret versions of the game. So this is the one I experienced. I didn't experience any additions beyond this, like nothing in the newer stuff. But I've been told there's newer stuff. Just not into it, never paid attention. Okay, how to run old school TSR top secret. This is going to be good information. If you do want to try the TSR version, you want this advice. And I think you should. I think this is actually better than the newer editions. It's something like my opinion about some of the Palladium games. Some of the earlier Palladium games, like Heroes Unlimited, to me are better than a lot of the stuff that came after. Though there are ideas that came after, I don't mind. But I loved Heroes Unlimited, right? Just felt it played better, and the more the game changed, the worse it got. Top Secret, in a way, I would feel that way because I like this approach. I like James Bond, but if you want a more gritty version, this is it. Okay, how to run. Old school Top Secret does not run best like superhero action movies. Non-stop cinematic spectacle. Modern narrative first RPGs. It works best when players feel vulnerable, cautious, underinformed, pressured, uncertain who to trust. The game becomes strongest when espionage feels dangerous. At the same time, it is important not to overstate the realism side of the game. Many old TSR top secret campaigns absolutely drifted into Bond-style action, globe-trotting missions, shootouts, disguises, daring infiltration, gadget-heavy adventures. The pulpy side existed at many tables. The key is, even when the game becomes adventurous, danger and operational caution should still matter. That would be my argument, because the game doesn't lean into these other styles. I've seen everyone try to do James Bond, try to do this, try to do that, which is what I was talking about here. It's not made for that. So it would counter all these ways, and people would be very disappointed when they tried to play the game or run the game that way. It's like, no, that's you want to go to what the designer is intending. That's where the best experience with this game is. All right, the GM is running an intelligence world. One of the biggest mistakes a GM can make running top secret like an ordinary venture game, right? The world should feel layered, secretive, politically complicated, partially hidden from the players. Players should rarely have perfect information. Good top secret sessions often involve incomplete intelligence, conflicting reports, uncertain allies, hidden motives, double crosses, surveillance, paranoia, operational mistakes. That tension comes from uncertainty. Okay, let me add a bit here. Let me just say this. Remember, old school gaming is about the feel. It's about getting into things. And one of the ways you do that is limit what the players are going to know what their character's going in. Don't try to keep them well informed. Like it's actually just understand. They're like, man, well, what do our characters know? Well, you know a little bit. They'd be like, well, shouldn't I know more? Nope. That's good. This is the challenge of the game. It's for them to get in and understand they're not going to know everything, so everything is dangerous. The game is already diddly, so it's meant to feel dangerous. It's meant to feel that way. It's not hard to get that right, but if you try to inform them too much, you can start ruining that experience. And it's about feel. Most sessions work best around missions. Old Top Secret naturally works very well around mission-based sessions. A mission provides objectives, pressure, operational structures, urgency, classic mission types, extraction, surveillance, sabotage, infiltration, carrier interception, hostage recovery, intelligence theft, assassination, defection, protection, At the campaign level, however, games could absolutely become ongoing agency campaigns, conspiracy investigations, eternal intelligence wars, interconnected operations. The mission structure was usually the framework for individual sessions, not necessarily the entire campaign itself. So, basically, you're going to build a plot off this, but it doesn't mean some of these things can't happen, right? Like sort of individual little missions that could even be separate from the plot you might develop later. Like it's just about getting to know, like getting into the game, having the experience, letting the characters be developed through this process, and you will start building a plot over time, right? But it might not be connected to every little detail that they're doing. But what they're doing is still part of the experience overall, so it becomes important. The player should do the planning. This is where sandboxy players guide the game. This is very old school TSR design philosophy. If you go back to like AD&D before you get to modules, the GM should avoid solving operational problems for the players. Instead, provide information, then let players figure it out. This is part of freedom play, right? Instead of guiding them on a railroad. Infiltration plans, disguises, escape routes, timing, surveillance, equipment use, backup plans. The fun often comes from preparation, caution, improvisation under pressure on the player's end note, not simply combat encounters. A strong top secret session often feels closer to solving a covert operation than clearing rooms in an adventure site, like a dungeon. Combat should feel dangerous, but not impossible. Combat absolutely exists in old school top secret. Like you'll have your bit. Shootouts, assassinations, ambushes, raids, vehicle chases, emergency escapes. But combat should feel risky, messy, dangerous, unpredictable. Players should usually understand violence creates consequences. Gunfire can expose operations, attract authorities, compromise identity, escalate political situations, destroy carefully built plans. A good espionage atmosphere often emerges when drawing a weapon feels like the situation is becoming unstable. If you carelessly do this, it can backfire. So there should be a reaction from the world, the scene, what's going on. So as a game master, if players are going to be careless, jumping into combat, blowing the gun off, well, guess what? That's going to have authorities coming this way. So if they're careless, yes, consequences. Consequences for careless moving towards combat. If it gets unstable, well then, by that time, if they're careful, if they haven't just been careless, there should be opportunities where they can escape, get away, hide. So when you sort of push them into corners where they can't get away from it, opportunity should open up. But if they carelessly shoot off, consider the consequences right away of what's going down. It can spoil the entire mission. That could hurt the game amazingly. So remember, it's not always character death that can hurt everything that's going down, pretty much end what you're doing. Information is the real currency in this game. In fantasy RPGs, loot often drives play. In top secret, information is usually more valuable than money. Important intelligence might include documents, recordings, hidden identities, passwords, surveillance photos, blackmail material, secret locations, agency contacts. The player should constantly feel the right information can completely change the operation. That creates an authentic espionage tension. And you want it to feel that way, where it's like if they get the information, that opens the doors. But it could even lead to more questions, right? It's like suddenly you find like, wait, why is there information about another agent here that should be on our side? NPCs matter more in this one than in many of the TSR games that are out there. Top Secret relies heavily on handlers, informants, rival agencies, diplomats, double agents, what we just talked about, criminal contacts, government officials, black market operators. NPCs should feel useful, self interested, cautious, suspicious, politically motivated. Not every NPC, remember the timeline too. This is the Cold War. That's why lacking of information, dangerous, and not trusted is a constant thread throughout this whole thing. Not every NPC should betray the players, right? So you just don't have everybody double cross, right? You want to balance it out. Some might actually help if you do the right deal with them. Some could double cross, but players should rarely feel fully secure about who they trust. Don't just, you want to be random enough that you're unpredictable with the NPCs. So make sure somebody might actually backstab them. Maybe they got to go through that experience to actually get to that point of like, last time we made a deal with a guy, he put us in a bad situation. He outed us and we had to get away from the authorities. Guys could end the whole mission on you if you talk to the wrong guy. So it's all meant to be a challenge. Think about these things like traps in a dungeon, right? So there, you won't know the trap is coming. You're going to walk into it. So it's pay attention, be careful, do all that, and maybe you give signs off. You put hints in there that guy might be good to talk to if they're going to pay attention, if they're making an effort. But there's nothing ever guaranteed, but there could be signs that somebody is worth talking to. It could lead to things like you hear another guy talking to him like, man, I come to you because you never ever turn, and I know you don't like the guys that are in there. So you hear a conversation and he doesn't like the people inside. Okay, he might be good to talk to. So it could be hints like that, right? Time pressure is critical. One of the biggest differences between espionage gaming and fantasy adventure gaming, timing matters constantly. Operations often depend on exact meeting windows, border crossings, surveillance schedules, security shifts, extraction deadlines, delivery transfers, synchronized actions. Players should regularly feel if we miss this window, the situation changes. So this is where you got to have players that understand the game. Like, guys, if you're careless, time is on you. If you just stand around talking, time is on you. That's not this game, right? This creates enormous tension. A mission can completely unravel because the contact leaves. Security increases. Authorities become alerted. The target relocates. Rival agents intervene. Time pressure is one of the core engines of spy gameplay. The GM should control pacing carefully. Good espionage pacing alternates between slow tension, briefings, surveillance, stakeouts, infiltration setup, information gathering, social manipulation, and sudden pressures, alarms, compromise covers, enemy pursuit, ambushes, failed disguises, extraction, emergencies, political complications. The contrast matters enormously. Too much nonstop action, the spy atmosphere weakens. You don't want that. Too much slow investigation, the tension disappears. It's a balancing act. At certain points, you get a bit of time to look around. All right, fair enough. There's a bit of time. But as a game master, you got to say you got that bit of time, but when things start moving, you got to put pressure on. You got to put pressure on. Or at least, hey, if the players want to play slow, the pressure's going to come and they can fail. Encourage tradecraft. Top secret becomes far more memorable when players start behaving like intelligence operatives. Reward coded communication. Like, how can I say, the guys agree, like when we get in the room, give me a signal like this, that will tell me to go do this. So it could be something that simple. Did drops, safe houses, alternate identities, using disguises, surveillance detection, operational caution, hidden equipment caches, putting stuff where you might be able to go get it later, getting someone into a place where they put stuff in or know where stuff is, right? Depends on what you got planned. Escape planning, plan your escape, be wise. Counter surveillance. The more players think like agents, the stronger the atmosphere becomes. So the more that's they're pushed to do this stuff, maybe somebody who's giving them the job could say, you guys get in there, try to get your stuff in there before you even start what you're doing. And the more players are bought in that this is what they're going to do, it's good. It doesn't hurt to have a bit of a conversation with new players going into it, like a whole new group. Again, you don't want to give them too much information about missions and about what they're walking into and like that. But in gameplay, as players aside, here's what you guys can consider doing with your characters. And the more they do it, the more they feel like it, then the more they think like it overall. It's manipulating themselves by starting to do actions. And then especially if they achieve it, this stuff, that's even more of an inspiration to keep doing more and feeling it. Remember, it's all about feeling the game, right? It's not like new school stuff. It is about feeling what you're playing. Good GMs turn failure into new problems. Old TSR games could be harsh. Failed operations could collapse completely, spiral into disaster, expose agents, kill characters, trigger political fallout. But experienced game masters often improve the game by turning failures into complications. So you don't have to blow up the game when things fail automatically. It can get there. Too much failure, boom, there you go. But I want to give you some advice on don't just automatically have failure blow the game up. So again, this is turning failure into complications, changing objectives. Okay, you didn't get to that, but there is stuff you can do to recover the mission, right? Pursuit situations. All right, now you got to go after the guy. I guess he got out of where you were meant to encounter him or assassinate him. Damaged alliances. Okay, these things can happen, right? Emergency extractions. Well, you thought you had time to get him out of here. Now you got to do it right away. So partial successes. Or sometimes, even when they fail, there could be like, well, you got this done, but you didn't complete. Sometimes things can be enough, even with failure. You can come back. This helps espionage campaigns feel dynamic rather than binary. So don't just automatically take failures as I collapsed the game on the players. Though too much collapses, right? That becomes on them. The Cold War atmosphere matters. Cold War atmosphere is a major part of the identity. The setting should feel shaped by intelligence wars, ideological conflict, covert influence, proxy struggles, hidden agendas, international paranoia. Even fictional nations should feel inspired by real Cold War tensions. Players should feel governments are conducting secret wars behind public politics. So there's what they're saying. They're saying, well, we're not over there doing anything over in that place, like a Congo type place. But really, they do have guys secretly in there doing operations, right? So make sure that's a real thing, that you're applying that to what you're doing. So players should feel like governments are conducting secret wars behind public politics. That atmosphere separates old top secret from later blockbuster style spy RPGs. It's a grittier part, but it is Cold War in mindset, right? Gadgets should support operations, but not replace them. One easy mistake, turn the game into a cartoon gadget spam. You don't want that. Gadget, it's not James Bond either. This is James Bond is a bit more unrealistic in the way that it accepts the stuff. This game is not. Gadgets work best when they are limited, specialized, risky, situational. The focus should remain on planning, intelligence work, player problem solving, player skill, operational thinking, not automatic gadget solutions, right? It's not James Bond. Just understand gadgets should be more grounded, more realistic. The GM usually needs more preparation. This is what I would say. This is one of the practical realities of running top secret. So it's one thing to go into a D&D game where I told you earlier about making your own adventures and that. This one, even though you do a lot of improvising, and it is sandbox, it's sandbox with more than just putting a few hooks in. Right? So there's a lot more to it. The GM often needs operational layouts, security details, agency structures, NPC networks, travel logistics, political situations, timelines, surveillance, patterns, espionage settings often feel weak very quickly if the world becomes vague or underdeveloped. Compared to many old fantasy campaigns, Top Secret usually benefits from heavier GM preparation. So you ever think, like, man, I can do too much preparation? You won't have that problem here. You won't have that problem here at all. All right. Old school Top Secret works best when with engaged players. So you want players that are buying into this. Make sure you have that talk. Make sure you got your buy-in. It's so important to have the talk. Don't just like, hey guys, let's play. They go to play. Explain to them, give them hints about what this game is and tell them you have to bring your energy to this. You have to bring your part in. Hey, Black Rose. Just at the end of how to run it, doing the last little part here, but we'll get to setting in that. There'll be some more meat on the bone on this one. And I don't know if you'd ever game master this anyway, but this is, personally, I like this a little bit better than James Bond at some level. I do like the excitement of James Bond for players, but as a GM, I do love the preparation part. I do love working on that stuff, even though when I give advice for D&D, DMing can be a lot more easier as far as prep. That's just to tell guys that don't want to do as much, hey, that game, that you can actually do your stuff there. Where this one, it's sandbox. It is sandbox, and it's from TSR before you get to modules. So this is where they're still pitching like AD&D sandbox properly, right? Start this guy. So old school Top Secret works best with engaged players that's saying get the buy-in. Groups that enjoy tactical thinking, investigation, planning, tension, caution, operational creativity usually get the most out of the game. Groups expecting non-stop combat, chaotic randomness, unrestricted power fantasy can accidentally undermine the atmosphere very quickly. And they start playing against, especially if you're a DM doing this right, they'll play against what you're setting up and it could spoil the whole thing. At its best, old TSR Top Secret creates a feeling many RPGs struggle to replicate. This is true if done right by the game master. Players genuinely feeling like intelligence operatives conducting dangerous covert missions inside a hostile, uncertain world. This is where you can actually feel like the real thing instead of just like James Bond. Okay. It's where I take a small break between those two parts. So we covered the fluff, how to run, smoke, and then I'll finish off the entire thing. I'll go into character creation. I'll go into the setting, how they work the setting gimmick here, and then into worth mentioning. I hope you guys are enjoying this. If you're ever going to game master this for real, it could sound like I'm just blasting through this, but for the person getting ready to game master, when they listen to this and they've read some of the TSR Top Secret, you'll come back here and go, wow, that's really good advice. And it will hit you well. I don't know how interesting some of this stuff is. Hearing it from just somebody who's interested in listening in, I hope it is. But I've done the fluff at the start. Who made it? The purpose of the game, where it is, the timeline, 1980. And it's an inspirational game for a lot of games I follow because most games were fantasy. And you got to remember how early the market is. The guys are not sure if people that are going to be into RPGs are going to be into non-fantasy RPGs. They're not 100% sure there's much of a market for it. So experimental stuff like this proves to people you can do a more modern setting, lack of fantasy. So it's important historically. And then it's just important in grittiness. Like, if it's one thing to say, you might say, you like James Bond. And James Bond is sort of the fantasy agent thing. Look cool, your hero points. This is not your protective James Bond hero point game. This is realistic, Cold War, real world type of feel dangerous. And it's meant to be that way. But a good game master is going to first off, like I said, he's going to take failure. Not every failure right away instantly means it's all over. There's all kinds of ways to turn failure around where it's like, okay, you failed to catch that guy at the right time. Now you got to go pursue him, right? Or you failed to get in and get that information, but at least you got some information, in the process. Okay, it's not everything you want, but it's maybe partial success, right? Stuff like that. Like, so first bit of failure doesn't have to mean exactly. Sorry, background noise happening for a second. I had to make sure that went right. Okay, but it's so now if they keep failing, you don't always need character death to ruin a mission. Does ruined mission mean everything's over? No, but it could be. What it could do is make it harder. Like, it's now when the players come back, when the characters come back, you might put them on a lesser mission, because the idea is the more successful they are, the more they're going to be put on. The less successful they are, the less serious work they might be given. So then they might be given a very basic job to go do, and they got to earn sort of some credibility back for failing. Some could be consequences where the failure is so bad, the campaign's over, even without character death, right? So it's just so important to, like, again, old school. The reason it's so gritty in this way and dangerous. Why is it meant to be that way? It's meant for you to feel that, and then getting players to actually do stuff like agents. Pre-plan where they're going to escape. Let's figure out how we're getting out of here, guys, when we're done. Like, players that are actively doing this stuff, figuring out how they're going to escape. Maybe we got to go into that place tonight, but before we get there, maybe somebody can sneak towards the bathroom and we can hide some gear for later when we go do that later. So there's gear there in case something happens. It's when you get players that take the buy-in serious and they want to play agents, they get there and they're actively doing stuff towards that. That's where you embody what the character is. And then the danger part is where I tell you, remember, embody character, feel the world. And this is what old school play wants, regardless if it's D&D fantasy or top secret. This is very old school, before cinematic play is a big issue. Initially, the earliest RPGs are all about embodying the character and feeling the world. It's really important to old play, right? Like now, say some of the newer games, gameplay. It's more about gameplay than feeling the thing. It's more about gameplay, having the great fight, than it is feeling the setting, embodying the character. But to feel a setting, to embody a character, to feel a setting means you can't just have fighting that isn't realistic. The realistic danger of combat is part of what will make the game, the world, feel a certain way. And if you take it away and you put combat in that feels good for a video game, the feeling of danger starts taking a back seat, right? That's why, say in Bushido, for example, you might think there's only so much combat. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of dealing with social angst. But if I do a lot of combat, or I give you a lot of supernatural, it won't feel the way feudal Japan should feel. Like, it won't feel that way. You'll feel like you're more like playing a video game than you are feeling a setting that you're meant to be in. So you might hear new school people not look back at this stuff and they don't get why is it so dangerous? Why is it so this? I'm like, well, there's a reason why some of the stuff you're doing feels more shallow. You have a setting, it can feel generic and you don't really feel it. In old school, you might have to go through this weird grind, but that grind lets you feel something. And if you buy in without complaining about the lack of video game combat, or sort of like, oh, I'm dealing with all this supernatural all over the place. If you can handle that, then you can appreciate, like, say, rare supernatural in Bushido. Well, if there's always hints of it and you're barely running into it and you finally do, and you know the game is dangerous in combat, when you finally run into it after a period of time, it will feel dangerous and scary. You've had hints, you haven't ran into it, and you're in a game where you know you can just be taken out quickly. So when you finally run into it, there is a feel that if I give you too much supernatural, too much of this, too much of that, it takes away that thing, and you start turning it more into a video game than something where you're really in feudal Japan with the fantasy meant to be felt the way it is. That's why some really good movies and stories out there, it could take a long time to get to the thing. There could be hints of it, there could be this, and when you finally get to it, it's like, holy fuck. There's some movies where you might not even ever run into the beast or the thing. It always might be a hint the whole time. But the tension in the movie or the story is amazing. The scenes are all built off tension instead of you ever actually running into the thing in the movie. And that is true in your experience as players in these old games. Right? And you can't really understand that until you play the old game. No matter what you assume from what you're told, until you play it, and you have to go in buying in, not expecting it to be a video game in combat style or whatever. When you finally go into it and you accept what it is, and you actually go into it and go, fair enough, I'm going to play this for what it is. You'll come out of that with an experience you realize is amazingly good. It's actually not bad. It's actually not. It's not to be able to run around like you're kicking ass, or you actually realize it's a really good fucking experience. Bushido is a really good experience. Top Secret's a really good experience. But you got to sort of accept it and then go in and go, okay, how does this play out? And it's not just good that you can create the tension in movies that way. You can do that actually in a game playing it. So, and that's a real thing. But you got to give it the opportunity. You can't just look at these games and go, man, that seems like it's going to be boring. Well, if you go in with expecting the action like a video game, yeah, what you get won't be that. So that will be disappointing. But if you go in and go, well, you know what? I'm just going to go into it and take it for what it is. Then you'll finally go, wow, okay, that's actually really good. That's actually a really good experience. It's like the tension built up in Call of Cthulhu. You're always after something you're initially probably never going to encounter. But what's the whole game built on? Tension. And a lot of stuff can be built on that, but there'll be a bit more better chance that you're actually encountering, say, Bushido might take a long time to encounter the supernatural, but finally you do encounter the demon. But when you finally do, because it's taken so long to get there and it's all built up and it's still dangerous, okay, you've been seeing the shadows, you've been getting a hint of things, it's taken a while, but you finally get there, man, and it feels dangerous. And you feel it. See, if I cheapen stuff and give it to you too much in old school, this is what old school will say to you. There's a feeling lost. It just numbs out your feeling. But you won't know that. Remember, it's all about manipulation. That you won't know that until you accept something for what it is and get there. And that's why these games, even though they're really great, a lot of them, they undersold because of the assumptions people made before trying them. Or when people would go in, they would try to play it like a video game, And that's not what the game is meant to be. And most people didn't understand what the designers of old school were trying to get. That's why most people never played D&D in the way the designers wanted them to. I'm not saying I don't care. I'm not saying you played it wrong or ran it wrong. You play or run D&D however you want. I don't even follow everything designers were intending. But if you understand what the designers were intending, their intentions actually worked out. Like actually worked out if you tried them. Like, oh, give me a second, fellas. I already think I know what the story is. Yes. Okay. Are we ready? Character creation. Let's jump in. Educating people here. Always like educating people. Okay, character creation in old school TSR top secret. Top secret characters are not fantasy adventurers. They are not chosen heroes. Unstoppable combat monsters. Of course, bathroom pizza. Inside joke there. It's a good one, though. It's a good one, if you understand what it is. Right, Craig? Craig and his bathroom pizza. We always got to have that. So, they're not unstoppable combat monsters, superhero action icons. They are agents operating inside dangerous covert situations. At the same time, players should not think agents are helpless or weak. Top Secret absolutely allows characters to become highly skilled, dangerous, elite operatives, experienced professionals, especially after surviving successful missions. The important distinction is agents are competent, but they are not invincible. Even highly trained operatives can get exposed, get cornered, get captured, get killed, compromise operations through mistakes. That vulnerability is part of the atmosphere of the game. Build a character who belongs in operations. One of the best questions during character creation is this: why would an intelligence organization actually use this person? So that you actually want to think of, like, when you're making a character, think this way. Why would an intelligence agency or organization actually use this person? So when you're making a character, you want to make one that they would actually use. That's your mindset here. Strong characters usually have practical expertise, operational usefulness, believable backgrounds, mission value. Examples: surveillance specialist, infiltrators, electronics expert, linguist, demolitions operative, military veteran, criminal asset investigator, diplomatic operative, extraction specialist. Players should think, what role do I serve during operations? Not simply, how do I dominate combat? Remember, don't think video game. That's it. Just understand it's realistic. It's as simple as you got to sort of view it coming into it, right? Old school character creation was still mechanical. One thing modern players sometimes forget: old TSR-era RPGs often had strong mechanical and procedural influence during character creation. Characters were not always perfectly optimized. Finely engineered concepts, carefully customized identities. There was often an old school mentality of work with what the system gives you. That mindset shaped many early top secret characters. Part of the fun was adapting to limitations, leaning into strengths, surviving weaknesses, developing the agent through play rather than building a perfect operative from the beginning. You're not playing new school munchkin video game. The weaknesses is part of the realistic part. Just keep thinking that. Realistic, realistic, realistic. Simple as that. Specialized characters would work better than generalist. So you do want to specialize more than anything. That's advice here. Old Top Secret works very well when agents have clear strengths, clear weaknesses, operational niches. This helps the group feel like an actual intelligence team. A balanced team, yes, team play is important here, often naturally develops infiltration capability, technical expertise, surveillance skills, social manipulation, combat, backup, escape planning, intelligence gathering. If every character tries to do everything, team identity weakens. So even though you can be generalist in the game, my advice is to always have players talk to each other and go, well, what roles would you like to play? And then focus your character towards that and accept that you'll have weaknesses. Don't try to generalize. It is a team sport. It's not an individual sport in this game. So you don't need to have a character that does everything. Just make sure you, as a group, you try to do as much as you can between you. Okay, at the same time, good espionage teams usually need overlapping abilities. Why? Because operations go wrong constantly. So like a secondary ability, like it's he's good at this, you're good at this, but you can have a little bit in towards something this other guy does too. So if that collapses or another person needs to do it, like given a situation, you still have another guy that can do that thing. So think of you guys having specialized in areas. Don't generalize too much, but secondaries could be this guy does the secondary towards it. You know what I mean? It's sort of that when you're spreading it out. Agents may get captured, become separated, lose equipment, get exposed, miss extraction, become injured. If only one character can drive, decrypt information, infiltrate, communicate, fight effectively, the operation can collapse very quickly. Good teams usually benefit from backup skills, secondary competencies, overlapping training. That feels very authentic to espionage operations. It's just you got a backup. Backup is simple right there. Backgrounds matter more than in many TSR games. In Top Secret, background heavily shapes gameplay. Players should think about nationality, education, military history, agency recruitment, criminal ties, political beliefs, languages, travel experience, cover professions. Espionage campaigns rely heavily on infiltration, trust, social access, believable identities. A strong background often creates more gameplay opportunities than raw combat ability. Meaning, you might have a guy who's from whatever place. What if you get on an operation where there's another guy there who's a security guy that you want to, who's also from that place? It might mean your character would know more about that culture, that society. How does that guy behave? Is he a trustworthy guy? A guy with a good background might know that if it's tied to that, right? Like an interesting background. So background, because of that, gives you opportunities, advantages in ways that are more role play friendly than giving you some extra gimmick plus video game stuff, right? But in a game like this, where video game gameplay doesn't matter and you're in realism, that's effectively powerful. So backgrounds really, really matter, which I think is interesting, right? Motivation and loyalty matters enormously. One of the best things players can think about: why does this character do this work? Espionage characters become much stronger when players understand what motivates them, what they believe in, what they fear. These details are important. What their loyalties where their loyalties truly lie, what might tempt betrayal, what moral lines they will not cross. This creates paranoia, tension, political conflict, emotional pressure, operational drama without needing combat constantly. Spy fiction thrives on divided loyalties and personal conflict. So you might say, my guy would never do this. Okay. There might be situations where you're just like, jeez, how am I going to deal with this? Because my guy will not do that. And right away, that's important to a realistic game like this, where you're not doing a video game, and these tensions matter to how you experience the game. So it's like a finite thing like that becomes important in these games, where it sounds like something interesting, and if you played more of a video game, it wouldn't really matter. But if you play a game like this and you put that in there, man, it can matter for real. That's fucking amazing. That's why I love real old school gameplay. So I'm old school. That's why I did all these games, right? Because I'm addicted to this stuff. Absolutely addicted. I love Top Secret. Reckless characters can work, but consequences matter. Old espionage fiction absolutely contains rogue agents, aggressive operatives, unstable field agents, reckless specialists. Those character types can absolutely work in Top Secret. The issue is not recklessness itself. The issue is whether the player constantly destroys group operations without consequences. A reckless agent should create danger, tension, complications, operational problems. That guy might, he might finally swing. He might do the action. Not immunity from the fallout of bad decisions. The world should react realistically to operational mistakes, meaning it's interesting to make a character where you have to play the character for the character. Like, imagine you're like, if I was playing a video game, I would never do that. But then you got to stop and look at your character and go, he might do that. And it's interesting to put yourself under pressure like that, where you go, I would never do that, but shit, the character might. The character might. And do you want to play that out? In a game like this will matter. It will actually matter. That's the important part, right? Social skills matter enormously. Many fantasy RPG players underestimate this initially. In Top Secret, persuasion, deception, disguise, intimidation, etiquette, manipulation, interrogation can become more important than combat ability overall. Operations are often won through access. You talk your way in. Trust. Guess what? He believes you. Hidden identities. You can hide who you really are. Social engineering, infiltration, not firefights. Some extremely effective agents may rarely use weapons at all. So you could have a combat guy who's in your group, but you could have a guy who does almost the entire operation, or maybe even the entire operation, never shooting, never doing action, and succeeding the entire way. Combat specialists still matter. Combat-focused characters absolutely belong in Top Secret. The game still includes, as I said with the Game Master stuff, but it's just a reminder, the game still includes raids, extractions, ambushes, assassinations, emergency shootouts, tactical infiltration. But combat specialists work best when they feel like disciplined professionals rather than fantasy-style warriors. Violence in espionage campaigns usually creates attention, political consequences, compromised operations, law enforcement response. Combat is part of the operation, not usually the entire operation. Makes you think of a Traveler. Traveler is all about consequences from the world. This is definitely one of these. If you become a Traveler game master, this stuff won't seem hard at all. It just react. Think about just the idea is you got to react realistically with the place, with the world, to what people do. That's what it comes right down to. It's the reaction of the world realistically to the actions of the player characters. Cover identities matter. Players should think carefully about who the character pretends to be publicly. Agents often need civilian identities, false professions, travel explanations, believable social behavior, meaning, again, you're not going to do special voices, but tone change, right? Like you do a different tone for the character when he talks as himself compared to the more pleasant tone you might give if he's pretending to be a business guy trying to talk his way in. But when you talk to the other player characters, privately, he's maybe more gritty, more or a guy who's more like a smart ass, but he's really polite when he talks to, everyone else, right? So believable social behavior, operational cover stories. A character who only functions during combat operations can become difficult to use effectively. Strong cover identities create infiltration opportunities. Social gameplay, deception-based problem solving. Characters should fear exposure. In many fantasy RPGs, being recognized often changes very little. In Top Secret, exposure can destroy operations. Like you're there and your fucking neighbor is the fuck? You're there pretending to be this totally different guy. You're whatever the name you're using there with a different identity. But he's like, hey, Mark. Fuck. Because you're not Mark. There. Why is that guy calling you Mark? Is he talking to you? Shit. So exposure can destroy operations. Players should think about witnesses, surveillance, fingerprints, agency suspicion, border security, law enforcement attention, compromised identities. Characters may survive physically while still completely failing operationally. That distinction matters enormously in espionage games, meaning you can fail and still come back. Like, no, your fucking identity's blown. You're not going to be able to go further in. You're not going to get arrested if you walk away now. It's not like you've done anything illegal outright. You can leave, but the operation's over. You've been outed. That's a failure on your way home. Team compatibility matters. Top Secret works poorly when every character behaves like an isolated lone wolf. Operation depends heavily on coordination, timing, support, planning, trust. Players should build characters capable of functioning inside of teams, supporting operations, adapting under pressure, cooperating when necessary. The game becomes much stronger when the group feels like an actual covert unit. Believable characters usually works best. Old Top Secret can absolutely support colorful operatives, adventurous specialists, larger than life agents, pulpy espionage archetypes. But even more adventurous characters work best when the world still feels dangerous around them. The game loses tension if agents feel untouchable. So it doesn't mean you can't be someone who feels a bit over the top, but it doesn't mean that the world bends to the way you feel with the character, right? Like the character can still I'm this, but it's not James Bond. He can still fall on his face. Believable vulnerability is part of what creates espionage atmosphere, meaning there's no hero points in this game. If you fall on your face, you fall on your face. It's like, sorry, you're not Bond today. One of the best character creation questions, a very useful question for players. What does this character contribute when things go wrong? Because in Top Secret, operations will become unstable eventually. Memorable agents are often the ones who can improvise, adapt, recover, survive pressure, help stabilize disasters. That matters more than raw combat dominance. The goal is not simply making the strongest character. The goal is creating a useful and believable operative capable of surviving inside of a dangerous intelligence world while still contributing meaningfully to a team and the mission. Okay, that was character creation. All right, now we're going to move on to the setting for Top Secret. Old school Top Secret is not built around a giant lore-heavy canon setting. That's a good thing. No huge giant lore dump on players or even a giant lore dump on the game master. You got enough to do in preparation. So be thankful this is the case. It is more a Cold War espionage framework than a deeply fictional universe. The game was designed to let GMs build agencies, conspiracies, operations, rival organizations, political situations, eternal conflicts. Using Cold War espionage atmosphere as a foundation, the setting itself is meant to be flexible, meaning you're building a sandbox, but it's putting a lot of work into your sandbox, right? So it's not a lore dump, it's a pure sandbox you're building from scratch and will develop over gameplay. Patrick McGowan is probably the best known for Prisoner, but he also starred in earlier Cold War espionage TV series called Danger Man. And it's easy to find. Well, that's good to know. I'll have to check that out, especially if it relates to something like this. So that's a good news. You don't have to learn a lot to start, but the prepping for your sandbox world is so important. The rival agencies, if you don't have this stuff in there, it doesn't exist, right? So you got to make it exist. It doesn't mean you got to put everything in at once, though, either. That's a great thing. Build up quite a bit. So you don't got to build it all at once. Have quite a bit to start with. But remember, in a sandbox, it's develop and build as you go. So after session 1, if you feel like you need another group in, guess what? You can put them in. It's not a set thing. So you can add what you need and you can develop what you've already put in, right? So just think about it that way. So not everything has to be built at once, but initially starting off, it's definitely a bit more work than a normal sandbox for Traveler or D&D. Well, if you're going back to old D&D, but if you use sandbox for D&D, still a lot easier than your starting point of this. The Cold War is the core atmosphere. More than anything else, Old Top Secret is built around Cold War tension. Every fictional campaigns are heavily shaped by East versus West rivalry, covert operations, intelligence wars, political paranoia, ideological competition, hidden influences, proxy conflicts, nuclear era fear. The world should feel like governments are fighting secret wars beneath public diplomacy. Right? So always have secret stuff going on that isn't just shared with the public. There's lies, propaganda, stuff like that going out to the public, right? The atmosphere is one of the defining identities of the game. Campaigns can range from simple spy adventure to political conspiracy. One important thing to understand, Old Top Secret was not always deep political thriller gaming. Some campaigns absolutely focused on conspiracies, betrayal, ideological conflict, intelligence manipulation, morally gray operations. But many old school campaigns were also straightforward spy adventures. Infiltrate enemy facility, recover stolen intelligence, stop assassins, extract defectors, survive hostile territory, intercept enemy agents. The game comfortably supports both tactical espionage adventure and more layered political spy fiction. That flexibility is part of why the game works for so many groups. Compared to a lot of old games that might have flopped, this one actually held up because it's an early non-fantasy and people were dying to try something like this. So a lot of people did, right? And it's coming out from TSR. So it's not just one of the side companies putting this out. It's the core, right? The world is built on hidden conflict. In fantasy RPGs, conflict is often visible. Wars, monsters, armies, invasions, and top secret, much of the conflict happens invisibly. The setting thrives on secrecy, misinformation, how ironic, A word we hear often nowadays: covert influence, surveillance, hidden loyalties, double agents, political manipulation. Public life may appear normal, while intelligence operations unfold constantly underneath. The hidden layer atmosphere is central to the game. Intelligence agencies shape the setting. Agencies are one of the core pillars of the world. These may include government intelligence services, military covert divisions, private espionage organizations. You should listen to this part because this will help you if you're building the sandbox from scratch. So these are important, very important. So criminal intelligence networks, revolutionary groups, rogue operations, corporate spy divisions, foreign agencies. The agencies themselves often become reoccurring factions within campaigns. Strong top secret settings usually involve, because you're building them. I love how they make you build. This is old school, real old school. Strong top secret setting usually involves conflicting agendas, eternal politics, operational secrecy, rivalry between allies, hidden power struggles. Even friendly organizations may just distrust one another. Fictional countries and agencies fit naturally. Old espionage RPGs, just checking. Old espionage RPGs often used fictional nations, renamed superpowers, invented agencies, semi fictional geopolitics. This gave GMs creative freedom, not stuck to the real world. Legal safety. They're not going to say something that they shouldn't say, and it's all made up. Easier adventure design, flexibility for political storytelling, because you can just make two different fantasy groups instead of going real life and then pissing somebody off at the table. You can keep the fantasy. The setting often feels inspired by the real Cold War rather than strictly recreating reality. That semi-fictional approach fits old top secret very naturally. Just think about it. Back in the day, there would have been people that could have a variety of views. If you want everyone at the table, you go with the fantasy, not the real world, right? Like, they're going to be happy. You don't get the conflict. Governments should feel imperfect. Old espionage fiction rarely portrays governments as fully trustworthy, morally pure, fully competent. Instead, top secret settings often feel politically complicated, paranoid, manipulative, strategically self-interested, bureaucratic. Agencies may hide information, sacrifice operatives, manipulate allies, pursue conflicting objectives, cover up failures. This creates one of the core tensions of espionage fiction. Who is actually telling the truth? And who are you working for? You could be out covering some of this shit. You could be called out to go cover up mistakes from your team if you're working for a team and not just working for a group who finds themselves neutral, right? The world should feel international. Top secret works best when campaigns move across countries, borders, embassies, airports, ports, safe houses, foreign cities, unstable political regions. Travel matters heavily in espionage gaming. Different regions should feel culturally distinct from one another, politically tense, operationally dangerous. The international atmosphere helps the setting feel larger than a local adventure campaign. Cities matter more than wilderness. Unlike many fantasy RPGs, Top Secret is heavily urban. Important environments include embassies, office towers, hotels, casinos, airports, government compounds, industrial facilities, train stations, crowded public locations. Military installments, urban environments create surveillance pressure, escape complications, infiltration opportunities, hidden movement, operational tension. The setting often feels dense, controlled, and watched. Information is more valuable than territory. One of the strongest themes in the setting, control of information often matters more than physical territory. Important targets may include intelligence files, blackmail material, surveillance records, communication codes, hidden identities, informants, intercepted messages, secret research. Entire operations may revolve around preventing leaks, exposing agents, intercepting communications, protecting intelligence assets. That focus strongly separates espionage settings from combat heavy adventure worlds. Technology reflects Cold War spy fiction. Old top secret technology reflects the late 1970s and early 1980s espionage thinking. This means analog systems, tape recordings, physical documents, coded radio traffic, primitive computer systems, early surveillance equipment, photographic intelligence. Operational operations usually depend on physical infiltration, human intelligence, dead drops, face-to-face meetings, covert transportation, rather than modern digital hacking culture. At the same time, the setting absolutely still supports classic spy gadgets, disguised weapons, hidden transmitters, miniature cameras, covert listening devices, specialty infiltration tools. The setting sits comfortably between grounded espionage and pulpy Cold War spy adventures. Criminal and private organizations fit naturally. Not every campaign needs to revolve around government versus government espionage. Top secret settings also work extremely well with criminal syndicates, smugglers, mercenary companies, rogue scientists, revolutionary groups, terrorists, private intelligence contractors, corporate espionage divisions. Old spy fiction constantly blurred the line between intelligence work, organized crime, political extremism, covert warfare. That overlap gives the setting enormous flexibility. So you can name more crime than, say, politics if you felt like that's where you wanted to go with it. Just saying. Or the other way around. Players operate inside larger systems. Players absolutely become elite operatives, influential agents, major threats to enemy organizations, especially over long campaigns. But the setting works best when players still feel they operate inside larger intelligence systems and political structures, governments, agencies, and conspiracies. And conspiracies should feel bigger than a single operation. That creates tension, pressure, uncertainty, operational realism without making players feel powerless. The setting supports both gritty and pulpy play. Campaigns can lean towards realistic surveillance, covert intelligence work, tactical infiltration, political espionage, or towards globe-trotting spy adventures, daring infiltrations, action-heavy missions, exotic locations, gadget-driven operations. Both styles fit surprisingly well inside the game's framework. You can mix them up or you can lean in either direction. That flexibility is one of the reasons old Top Secret remained memorable. Still, I know some people that still play this. For real. Some old guys that still actually play this game. The world should feel unstable beneath the surface. A strong top secret setting constantly feels tense underneath normal society. Operations may trigger diplomatic incidents, assassinations, riots, military escalation, political retaliation, intelligence wars, agency crackdowns. Players should feel small mistakes can create major consequences. That tension is part of what gives espionage campaigns their energy. So you got to be careful. A minor thing can turn into a big thing. A big thing. One of the most important setting lessons. The world becomes far more believable when it does not revolve around the player characters. Agencies continue operations with or without the players. Meaning the players can do what they want to do in the world, right? And that way you do lean into them. But the things you set up in the sandbox, they're going to be in action themselves on their own. So like sort of like a separate thing is going on at the same time. So what you put in needs to be trying to do stuff while the players are doing stuff. And so they can either involve themselves in the plot or just go after whatever they want to do. If there is plots that you develop over time. But usually, again, you develop plots around what the players are doing. So agencies continue operations with or without players. Rival groups adapt, enemies react, political shifts, politics shift, contacts disappear, operations escalate. The setting should feel alive and constantly moving. That creates much stronger espionage atmosphere than static mission worlds. The real identity of the setting at its core. Top Secret is about hidden wars, covert operations, intelligence struggles, and dangerous espionage missions unfolding beneath the surface of a tense Cold War world where secrecy, manipulation, and uncertainty shapes everything. That's the setting covered. All right, let's go into the worth mentioning part. The game came out during a wild experimental RPG era. Top Secret came out during a period when RPGs were still heavily experimental. The hobby had not fully standardized yet. Companies were still exploring what genres worked, what mechanics worked, what role-playing could even become outside of fantasy. That experimentation is all over old Top Secret. The game often feels ambitious, procedural, uneven, creative. In a way, many later polished RPGs do not. Though rough experimental energy is part of its identity. So it really does. It's great in many ways, but you can definitely feel like they're throwing everything in a certain hat, right? They're trying to, but they're still trying to keep a certain feel. TSR was expanding beyond fantasy. Top Secret is also a part of TSR's realizing role-playing games might become larger than fantasy alone. The company was actively experimenting with espionage, science fiction, superheroes, gangsters, gangbusters, post-apocalyptic settings, modern adventures. Top Secret represents TSR's trying to expand both commercially and creatively beyond Dungeons and Dragons. That broader experimentation is one reason many old school players still view early TSR as unusually creative compared to what it was like saying going forward. Because early they're making games. See, without modules, without money grabs, they're pressured to make games. They're pressured to try things because they do not have a money grab system. Like the money grab concept doesn't even come until later. So what do you do before there's money grab gimmicks? You're pressured to make games. That's why I say the less we invest in money grab content, the more you pressure people to make games. That was the point of my video today. And so this was true in the early part of the hobby. So you see it actually play itself out before money grab stuff there. So it's always up to us if we invest in that stuff. And what it means, if you invest in money grab, you get more money grab. If you don't, you get more of this because people do want your money, right? And so it's like, well, let's find out who has the creativity to make games. The game still feels very old. Even though it's still an espionage game, you could still still strongly feel TSR's old school design roots. You see this in procedural play, tactical caution, mission structure, equipment importance, as I said earlier. Old school design philosophy adapted into espionage. I'll add this because this is the part that I didn't really cover. I just had some notes before this. Equipment and preparation matter enormously. Old top secret places major importance on disguises, surveillance tools, forged documents, communication equipment, infiltrating gear, weapons, very interesting, like, hidden weapons, escape planning. Sometimes the difference between success and disaster is simply bringing the right equipment beforehand. That strong preparation focus connects directly back to old school TSR design philosophy. Okay, this is going to be the final part. Top Secret may not be the smoothest or the most refined espionage RPG ever made, though I think it's fucking incredible. But it remains historically important because it helped prove that role-playing games could successfully handle covert operations, Cold War tension, tactical espionage, and spy adventure long before the genre became fully established in tabletop role-playing gaming. I hope you enjoyed. Character creation advice is great. I think I explained the setting in detail, and because in this one, it's not explaining a setting; it's explaining to you how to make the setting. So in a way, it's like I had to do how to run with the game master advice, character creation for that advice, and then the setting was actually advice to how to make the setting because that's sandbox, right? I hope so. Like, here's what I'm hoping to do. If you go get this game, I want you to come back here and listen to this and go, man, he just gave me 50 million ideas. I hope the setting part gives you all the ideas in your mind, all the group ideas to make your setting. Yeah, you'll have to go back to how to run. That's if you want to run it. I give you all the ideas for your missions, what you want to do. Like, if you go through that, you'll appreciate it. I've given you the game. It definitely expects you to know a bit about the timeline, but here's the great thing, Philo. With my advice mixed with you making a fantasy version, you could do it. You got if you take my advice for the setting part, this is the magic part. My advice mixed with what you come up with, you're actually okay. My advice in there will actually solve. I really believe because I've given the advice out before of somebody who has made a setting without knowing that timeline. So I hope someone in I think it was early 2000s. I went through this test with helping a guy make an actual setting. And how did I help him? Was just giving him ideas. So if you go back and listen to the setting part that I covered, and you're in the midst of making your thing, that will give you if you just let it hit you then, because you're just listening to it to get interested in it, right? It's just a promotion right now. But if you sat down, just say you went out and got the game, you sat down, you start making your sandbox. Come back and listen to that part again. Then you'll hear especially someone trying to make the setting, you'll really hear the value in what I said. That's when it will aid you. That's when the advice will be your saving grace. So that advice I gave you for the setting, that will be your saving grace. If you sit down and try to make it and you can't think of anything. But here's what's great, Philo. Craig offered a TV show. This is where Craig's magic. Thank you, Craig. I love you. I love you, Craig, because you're always the guy who comes through on this stuff. So I always love having Craig around for certain things like this. You don't need to know everything. Take my advice. Go watch that show that Craig told you. That's more than what you need to make your setting. That's more than what you need to make your setting. My advice mixed with that show, because the show will give you some idea. Boom. And then, like, you want to know what doesn't take much? Go watch a small documentary on the Cold War. Mix that all in. And remember, you get to make fantasy. You're making the fantasy version. So you get to make it up. So relax. An hour documentary mixed with maybe some of the episodes he's talked about, and take my advice. You're set, baby. You don't need to go take classes on this shit to get it done. Like, you don't need to take classes. I promise you, you'll appreciate my setting advice if you tried. You go back and listen to that again, you'll be like, holy shit, Steve just packed in shit in there. Like, just listen to my statements over again. You'll be like, oh, because I just speed through some of the stuff, I admit, right? That's just because I'm trying to be a little bit more fast and exciting for you. But if you're someone who actually sits down to do it and then you go back and listen to that, great. It's like if you're right now, just say somebody was going to run a top secret game for you and you're making a character. Okay, I try to make it fine for you guys, but if you're going to make a character, go back and listen to that again. You'll be like, oh shit, those are great ideas for making up a team. Great ideas for making my character. Great questions I put in there on purpose. These questions are not in the book. These are questions I put together that you could ask yourself that will help you make a character and then help you understand your team play. So that's not just advice spelled out for you in the books. This is me sharing wisdom from actually doing the game. I always love to do this because this is me trying to get more valuable stuff than just what you can read in the fucking book, right? It's easy to tell you what it says in the book for a game. That's a lot of content creators do that. I like to give you stuff that is not directly in the book and will be solid. My advice for character creation will be solid. If you're going to run the game, and not everything is written in the book either. So go back to where I do the how to run the game. It's all ideas for the adventures, for the things you're doing. And these will be the things that will trigger what you need to know, what you need to think about to make your stuff up. Period. So just on my advice, you can make your setting, make your character run the game. But what helps is having Craig around to give advice for like a TV show or, whatever he comes up with. Like if he says, read a book, follow what Craig says. He's always going to help you. And then my other piece of advice, if you feel like you need to know a bit about the Cold War, a good 1 hour documentary will cover your ass. And if you got time to play Top Secret, it won't hurt you to watch 1 hour documentary. Like a quick, just sort of good rundown on the Cold War will help you. But do you need that really? No, just this stream alone can cover you. Like I talk about the fear and the paranoia, like all the details about the Cold War are mentioned. So if you go back and really pay attention, you'll be like, oh, he's mentioned, like if you go watch a documentary and then listen to my thing, you'll be like, oh, okay, that matches up. Yeah. And you're making fantasy. So there, Top Secret is covered. And it's all done and chatted before just about 3 hours, pretty much close to on the dot. I'm here for a while, so I hope you guys are enjoying. I had to sit back and just have a smoke. Shoulders bothering me a bit, but I'm good. Good. Danger Man ran for 8 years and was excellent. The Prisoner Maid in Wales kind of followed on from that, but it was much more surreal. I just hope this inspires people to consider Top Secret. It's one thing you want to go play James Bond. I get that. James Bond is good for the cinematic feel for a spy game. But Top Secret is just, if you want real, it's real. But it's real in the right way. It's absolutely amazing. Amazing to be in the situation dealing with stuff the way you do, right? Yeah. That's same here. At the end of the day, I would choose Top Secret over James Bond. But if you need a bit more cinematic action, James Bond, I'll give it to it. I don't know, maybe even Mission Impossible is more James Bond in the movie sense. Cinematic, yeah, I would say that. It's a bit this, but it's more that. Yeah, I gotta admit, it's more that. So this is just more realistic. But I like this. I like the gritty realism. I fucking absolutely adore it. I like the feel. I like the feel of the place, and I love tension in tabletop role playing games without action all the time. Like I fucking buy in. I'm totally down with trying to talk my way into a place, and just all the tension built around not getting caught. Right? Like I love that, and I love having characters that have wear quirks where I know I wouldn't want to exactly do that, but I love the idea. I do, as long as it doesn't kill the game completely. Some games are, oh, you don't want to do it carelessly, but I love the idea of I got to play my character for who my character is. I love a pressure test like that. Like I make it that he absolutely says he refuses to do this over this type of thing. Oh shit. Get to a situation where that would be the easy solution. But now I got to fucking circle jerk it around to figure out how he will deal with that without doing that. Or imagine you're at a place where you're in the middle of a mission. There's your neighbor. Hey, Mark. Hey. Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, Mark, right now I'm surging. Could you fuck off? That is lovely. That's a lovely moment. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I fucking tell my neighbor to fuck off without telling him everything? Well, that's exactly what he's telling you about. He's saying, go look them up. Craig's an older guy who's just dug into a lot of interesting shit over time. That's what I find with Craig. He mentions a lot of stuff I don't know, but I went back and skim over a lot of stuff he'll talk about. And right away, after checking it, I'm like, okay, I get it. Craig's fucking always on point. He gets what I'm talking about, matches up content, books, shows with what I'm talking about, especially on these subjects, right? The Swedish James Bond. I'd like to cover a cop. You want to know what I'd love to do? Like find a cop TTRPG. If there was one type of cop TTRPG I would ever make up, have you guys ever heard of an Australian show? I think it's called like Water Rats. I think it's called Water Rats. I think so. I mentioned it randomly, but that was something I was thinking about randomly today because I've been looking for the show again. It's an Australian crime show where you're playing cops, but you're playing Australian cops. It's called Water Rats. And I was like, me either. But I don't watch much TV now. But there was a period of time when I was younger, I watched a bit when I had more free time. I'm just too busy in life. But when I get a little free time, I don't want. Like I watch a show off and on, but it varies, depends. Blacklist, because I love the character in Blacklist. It gives me old show vibe, right? So Blacklist doesn't feel like one of the newer shows, though it sometimes plays on current world shit, but it still feels like it's written like as an older show. So I like Blacklist. I'm very picky, but Blacklist is one of those rare ones where I'm like, it feels old school in the way the character is in the writing. And I like the character. I won't lie. He's definitely a fucking always wins the situation type of character. But that's what a lot of old shows are. Like your main character is always protected, but it's well done because I like how they're very clever about putting him in potential bad situations, but at the end, he always comes out on top, right? But they know how to put enough pressure on it where you're like, holy shit, he just got smacked around for a second. But at the end, he'll do the smacking. Like he smacked around for a second, but at the end, he's going to come back and kaboom, kaboom. But now, Philo, I would say, like now in life, I don't watch much TV, much at all. And even that, when I say I watch TV, I don't watch TV. I don't watch TV at all. I watch everything on the like it's when I have time for PC. When I have time to watch anything, it's on the computer. I won't lie now. That's my like I have TV. Ironically, it's part of the deal. I have it for family or visitors coming over. Like especially like I company tonight, staying the night because he works by where I live, so he's always here quite often, which is my uncle. He'll stay here tonight like he often does, and he'll watch TV. But he's in his 60s. But he's a TV guy. He's not a PC guy. He doesn't use computers. Though recently, ironically, only recently in his life, in the last like month or so, he finally started using his cell phone more. So he's finally a little bit more on that, right? But that has to do with his work too. But he started just using it more. I'm like, all right, fair enough. But he likes watching sports, and I'm not a. I used to watch sports. I'm a hockey fan. I like the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I haven't watched a full hockey game in probably I'll be honest with you. It feels like 3 years now since I've watched a full hockey game, start to finish. But occasionally I watch hockey before then, but just haven't watched hockey in years. I like the sport. I just don't get time for it. I keep a busy life. Like today, like I don't get burnt out, but I can get to I have occasional parts of the day. Some days, very rare days, where I feel worn out, but I can still put the energy on and come on and do this. Like my shoulders bother me, backs bother me. I felt worn out a half an hour before I started the stream, but I hope nobody's noticed. But I felt worn out. But I don't get burnt out, but I can feel worn out. But worn out doesn't last for me because I don't get burnt out like, oh, it's like I burnt out for a while and then I might come back later. I get worn out, and then I get over it. It's like, so fuck it, I'm worn out. I don't care. I just go, gotta do shit anyway. Why cry? Why be a bitch about it? It's been my game mastering career too. I'm someone who always I've never been the guy who I skip out only times in life where I've had no choice. Work calls, I gotta go, right? Wasn't planning on working, but this is the situation in life. But if it's just like, man, an hour before I do not feel like running the game, I don't care. I show up. And I'll put the energy on. Like I'll just show up and go, I don't feel it, but I'm going to fake it until I make it type of thing. And I get over it. Blues using fudge and even got a funky theme to Craig, if you haven't heard of the Water Rat Show, I think if you've done that, go watch Water Rats for real. It's Australia. It has to do with the water. It makes it like a very unique take. There's bikers in it, but there's also the water gimmick that's quite often. Take a look at that one if you do that with fudge. Take Water Rats, I think it's called. I might have to get the proper name for you, but it's an Australian cop show. I think it's from like sometime in the 2000s and 90s. I forget the timeline. Haven't really noticed, but I have noticed you don't always have the same energy, but that's normal for all of us. Don't worry, it hasn't been very evident. That's the thing. Some nights I can come on here. It's like I'm drinking my energy drink, and I can go. Right? I think at parts of this I've been full of energy. I get hyped about the game. Right? You will like it, Craig. I from what I know that you like, you'll love it. But I got hyped talking about Top Secret. because what can bore other people about old school, instead it gets me excited. It really does. Like the idea of tension and social interaction, and not always focus on combat, because to me, not combat's okay, but I mean, it can just get repetitive and boring. So I want combat to feel special when it happens. Like I just want combat to. I want everything to be fun. I hate the idea of playing like new D&D, especially, or even playing. Uh, like I run games for like second edition for guys that will lean more into the action than the designers would intend. But so like you, Black Rose, I get guys that go after the action. I myself, I'd love more the tension between the interaction between me and the other player characters. So I would look to avoid most combat. I'd be looking for the gold, right? I'd be doing everything else, but I'd enjoy that. I'd enjoy the tension, the character development, the push on that. But that's the element about old school that I'm into. I'm actually into the actual social stuff and the role playing that way, right? I'm actually deeply into that stuff. It gets me excited to have tension and everything else. My feet are sore. But yeah, I get excited. Honestly, genuinely excited. And I'm not just, to me, action can get so repetitive. And I hate repetitive. That's why I like rare. Like, I like when fighting only happens every so often, but when it does, man, that I'll dive into it. Like I'm a player who is 110% into everything. So you give me action, I'll role play that. I'll be excited about the action. It's just I don't want it all the time, and I want it to feel like, oh man, by the time it happens, like, okay, some action. Geez, it's going to be dangerous. I want to feel on the edge, right? I want to feel the danger of the combat. But if we fight too much, that edge goes away, right? It becomes repetitive really quickly for me. But maybe that's because I've done so much old school gaming that the new school, instead of seeming cool to me, doesn't. Like I don't like a lot of video game combat feel. Like I like the feeling like I'm in something real. Now I don't mind some cinematic play. Like I like the James Bond stuff we talked about recently, but like Craig said, me and I'm with Craig. I would prefer Top Secret as a player, especially as a game master. I can enjoy James Bond. Even as the second edition game master. So as a game master, I can enjoy a variety of things, right? So that's a completely different take. But as a player, I prefer like a Bushido game, like talking my way, like Top Secret, talking my way through stuff. I love social interaction in the game. I love all that shit. The idea of having a secret identity, hiding who I am, changing the tone. How, like, say I'm being one of the agents in Top Secret. I love to have one tone as the guy who's speaking to the people at the party, and then one completely different tone when I go back and talk in private with the other characters, expressing who my character really is instead of who my character's pretending to be, right? At the party. I love that type of shit. I can fucking dive into it. And if I have people that are also into it, I'm all the way in. I love running that stuff too, but this is just for the changes. As a game master, I then can be a little bit more open to, okay, you guys want to do action? I'll make sure I have fun. You want to do action? Fucking do action, dude. I'll have fun. I will have fun. I don't mind superhero either. Again, but that's more as a game master. It's a Heroes Unlimited when I say it's my favorite Palladium game as a game master, not as a player. I'm not a big hero game player person. I don't like playing too much action. I prefer way more social interaction. I prefer that in the game. Don't get it wrong, I'm not an actor. I just like the gamey aspect of talking your way through stuff, right? Metro City Blues turned out to be, well, yeah, because investigations, figure out who's who. And even if you're on a chase with someone, you might run someone down, knock them down, but it doesn't mean you're in a fight. It's different than being in a fight, right? Just saying. That's different than being in a fight. Ah. So I prefer old school games like that. Did you, I don't know, Black Rose, if you noticed, I put out that video today saying, just, I haven't really been open about it, but I've been purposely doing this with my channel, teaching sandboxing, teaching stuff to people so they can avoid doing money grab purchases. Like, it's explained to people today, finally being more open about it. Like, a module is built off sandbox gaming. But if you know how to do sandbox, you don't need the module. And you start basic with sandbox and D&D. You got your few hooks. The players are going to do what they want to do. And then after that first session, you see all that stuff, you start building. You build a bit, you go into the next session. It's all about building new twists and building and building and building and building and building. And by the end, all the things you develop, the players have done, all that should look like a pretty impressive module, right? Like a sort of module of your own. But then this adventure is tailored to you and what your players have done, instead of you trying to play or run what I call a module, another Game Master's game. But how they make the module. All modules are made this way. Even how you make your world, say in a Top Secret, your whole world is created through a sandbox. You can make an entire setting through the sandbox for like a D&D thing. You don't need Greyhawk. And Greyhawk was built how? It was all built through testing. How they test it? It's a sandbox. You start with maybe the city. You start expanding out as you need stuff, right? You start building out as you need stuff through the play testing, right? But that sandbox, developing your own setting naturally. Seen some related videos the last few days. Yeah, like the city campaign. Just saying, there's whole books out there like this, how you do a city campaign. I'm like, well, I can explain to you how to do a proper city campaign in less than 10 minutes and build your own thing. And you don't need to purchase the money grab book, right? I've seen some related videos the last few days. Yeah, it's not sure if you're thinking about one particular thing, but I'm enjoying them very much. Also, no stranger to running sandbox games, of course. We'll chat about our common hobby. Never get tired of that. Of course. Of course. No, but my point of doing some of this stuff is teaching people how to avoid, and the less you purchase money grab material, it's like, think about it. Top Secret comes from a time from TSR before they do modules. And then you serious about it. So what happens? It causes TSR to make games, not clones of D&D, whole new games. Not clones, not modules, not settings, but games. And games that teach you that, like in Top Secret, you get your proper sandboxing where you build the world, you build your adventure, and it's all through sandboxing, right? And that's important. And you can do that with the D&D thing. You don't need to buy all this stuff. Oh, the city campaign stuff would 100% apply to Top Secret. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd have to certainly look at the different stuff, but the concepts in there would help explain that. But it's like city campaign. You do the same thing. You start, players do stuff. Between sessions, you start developing that, building, getting your plot ideas from the gameplay, right? And then next session, you do more. And that's when you hear about play testing for Greyhawk, really it's not play testing. It's a sandbox. They start, they play, say, in a city, and you develop a mountain out here you need. Okay, we need a place to go. Okay, you start developing this stuff slowly. And so Greyhawk isn't really built from game testing. It's sandbox. It's developed develop through sandbox, which you can do with the D&D games. You don't need to buy Greyhawk. You can start a city, start your sandbox, and then see what the players do and build out. And you're improvising, making stuff up, and as you do through the session, you make stuff up, you see what they take on to, and then between the sessions, you start to build what you need for the stuff that you made up. You made that, you improvised that in. Well, now you got to make that thing you improvised in. That's it. And that's how you get Greyhawk. That's how you get a setting. You build it from sandboxing. Sandboxing is the core, but sandboxing also teaches everyone that you don't need this whole thing built. You can start simple and build everything. So as a game master, it's actually easy. It's easy to build your own setting through gameplay. It's easy to build your own adventures through gameplay. It's easy to develop, do an entire city campaign through starting the sandbox gameplay. So sandbox is so important to the whole process. Once you understand it, you realize that's how they made settings. That's how they made modules. That's how they make everything. But you can do it just at home. And now your creativity, if you do that, isn't smothered under somebody else's game. So instead of running a module, you're making your own adventure. Your creativity comes out, right? And everyone has that creativity. So I'm teaching people that the less you purchase money grab material, you force people to make new games. And I like, say, World of Darkness and Plendium. I like the fact that instead of having money grabs, what did they have to do? Vampire comes out. Well, you don't got a money grab scheme. What do? Well, you got to make werewolf. Less money grab schemes. You got to make magic. Plendium. You got to make Heroes Unlimited. You got to make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And at one point, TSR, before they had modules, before they have money grab stuff, they have to make Top Secret. They have to make the Pedal Throne. They have to make new games, and not just clones, because clones are money grabs too, right? They have to make new games, right? And when modules weren't selling well, you get things like Star Frontier. But when the money grab stuff comes in, splat books, modules, whatever, money grab gimmicks means there's less pressure to make new games. And when there was less of the modules, less of this, that's why the old school produced so many games. So many games. And what happens when you're bringing new people in the early 2000s, because the module stuff goes away, what happens in the early 2000s? A lot of new games. A lot of new games. So if we're having, now today's world, it's clones in the old school, clones, new modules, city campaign books, right? Money grab. I'm not saying people shouldn't buy it, but wouldn't you rather the people that had the money for the art, they had the energy, and the most creative ones pressure them by not buying the money grab and say, make a new game. Not a clone, not a module, not a city campaign book, a new game. So we can get new games now. But it's up to the customer to pressure the market. If the customer rewards that part of the market, the money grab, you get more money grab than you get games. That's how that works. It's really important. So it's not that I want to see people lose money. It's just saying, hey, if you're going to invest in making products, make new games. Not clones, not money grab shit, new games. Not clones are not new games. It's money grab. New games. New games. Not just some other like version of D&D and some weird thing. Like, oh, it still uses clerics, but it's more real. It's historical. I'm not against these people. It's just I would love to see some of these people with the energy, like, make a new game. Still lots of ideas that have not been touched. Lots of concepts have not been made into games or successful games. There's lots of games made that just never went anywhere and might even been shitty. Well, make a better version. Take that idea, make a good game. But if the customer rewards money grabs, so why not teach the customer, hey, you know how they're making the city campaign? Here, let me give you a 10-minute explanation. Yeah, you can do your own city campaign. Like breathing air, and you can do the whole thing, and it will work. Or explaining sandbox gaming. You can make your own setting. And you don't need to make it all at once. And look, if you're just players at home, like Game Master, if you're not looking to sell anything, I'm saving you shitloads of money. And a lot of people out there, people without money over the years have asked me, they don't have the money to go buy stuff. They're like, how do I do a city campaign? Like that guy in Discord there, Black Rose, was asking me. Well, I saved him a shitload of money, didn't I? Because there is some new books out for city campaign. Now he can go pay an arm and a leg to get that if he's tight on money. But I saved him a crap load of money by properly telling him how to do a city campaign through sandboxing. So it's like most people don't have the money for that stuff. So what I do is go, well, here, at least at this channel, I'm giving you the secrets. It's not so secret if you study the hobby, but it's secrets because it's like, well, how'd that guy make his thing? Here's what he did. So you don't get to make the whole thing at once. You develop it. And guess what? When you develop it for you and your players, it's tailored to you guys. Yeah, I hear you. Metamorphosis Alpha is going to be fucking good when I cover that. But yeah, Gamma World, which you guys know, I've already covered Gamma World. Whole list of games I've already covered. Okay, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight. Remember tomorrow, Ghostbusters RPG. It's going to be good. It's going to be fucking good. It's going to be interesting. Ghostbusters RPG. Ghostbusters tabletop role-playing game. Give you guys a second to say goodnight to me. I'm not really going to bed, but we're going to take some painkillers and have a snack. Then head to bed. Usually by the time I'm done these streams, it's almost like I'll stay up for like a little bit too longer than I should. So if I call it now, I'll get a good sleep tonight, and then we'll be ready for Ghostbusters tomorrow. I appreciate that, Philo. Yes. Craig, as always, love the advice. Philo, great being around. Love all you guys. Wouldn't want to miss tomorrow. Thanks for the stream. I'll watch you beginning soon. Hopefully already tomorrow. Good night. Guys, yes. Ghostbusters. Everyone be